Hey, everybody. Thank you for waiting. It's one of those nights, but my belief is that it is better to stream late than it is to not stream at all. So after quite some time, here I am, and we are going to have our late night chat. A bit later than I expected, but here we are. Thank you all for being here. Hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, hit the notifications bell. It's going to be just another late night conversation. I'm probably going to go just as long as I usually do, but who knows? It's going to be a great night, and you all are amazing. Thank you for being here. Let's go.
Spoken of the American century. I say that the century on which we are entering can be and must be the century of the common man.
A radical redistribution of economic power.
I mean, we know that racism is just a byproduct of capitalism. Everything would be all right if everything was put back in the hands of the people.
We need a government that will make sure Americans are taken care of and organize the economy to serve the people, not the profits of a wealthy few.
We now have the techniques and the resources to get rid of poverty.
We got to start getting out there with the people.
Get out of the movement and get to the masses.
We need a government of action.
Welcome, everybody. I am so glad to be here with all of you tonight. And the way we do our stream is going to be the way we always do streams, with me giving my opening remarks. My opening remarks are then followed by a roll call where I call you all out as I see you. And then from there, I answer your super chat or Rumble rant questions for the rest of the night. So if you got something you want me to talk about, Rumble rant, super chat. Now, I do have quite a few announcements, or more than usual. So let's just start with the first one. Very big interview on this channel tomorrow. I will be interviewing the legendary Dr. Shiva. That is right. Dr. Shiva will be right here on this channel at 3:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. It's happening. I am interviewing great critic of the American establishment, a guy with an amazing background, when it comes to, to working in the computer sector. And if anyone is qualified, it is this guy, and I look forward to our conversation. He will be on this channel tomorrow at 3:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. So I'll drop the link in the chat, and it'll be right here on this channel. Tune in. And if you have any suggestions about what I should ask him, don't hesitate to email me. I will be honest that I'm not deeply familiar with his work, as many of you probably are. So suggestions are always appreciated for big, high-level interviews like this. I've already gotten a few people reaching out to me telling me what we should discuss. So yeah, that's the link to the upcoming interview with the great Dr. Shiva that is happening tomorrow afternoon. I'm hoping my job doesn't interfere in any way. You never know. But you never know what could happen. It ain't over till it's over, as they say. It ain't over till the fat lady sings. But here we go. I am looking forward to this conversation with the presidential candidate, critic of the establishment, critic of U.S. foreign policy, critic of the U.S. deep state, anti-imperialist Dr. Shiva. So yeah, tune in, send suggested questions, send whatever you think I should ask him. I know very little about him. I'll be honest. I'll be going in with an open mind. I will be going in with a very, very open mind. So it'll be a fun conversation. That is the first announcement. Second announcement is that for those of you who maybe haven't heard yet, I will be this weekend. I will be in Washington, D.C. I will be attending the Libertarian Party's national convention. I will be there on Saturday, the day that Donald Trump is addressing the Libertarian Party's national convention. So if you're going to be in the DC area on Saturday and you'd like to meet me and other CPI people who will be there with me, by all means, reach out. I don't get to DC that often, so reach out. I know there's going to be a few people there. Shout out to Peter, who is giving me a lift down. And part of the reason that I need Peter to give me a lift down, I'm not just taking the bus or a train, is because we're going to be bringing thousands of copies of this pamphlet with us. That's right. On Thursday morning, I am headed to the printer to pick up a large number of these pamphlets. Do you believe in growth? Very exciting. And thank you to everyone who has already donated to help get this pamphlet out. So, Washington, D.C., Saturday, Libertarian Party Convention. That is where I'll be. Another announcement. If you are in the Los Angeles, California area, there is a very good chance I will be out there. It is not yet confirmed, but there is talk of an event with some people I've been working with. There's a talk of an event on June 8th or June 9th. The weekend of June 8th or June 9th, I would be in the Los Angeles area. So if you're out there, if you're in Los Angeles, by all means, shoot me an email or a text or a message or whatever. And I will, if this event ends up happening and I end up going out there, I'll obviously have a promotional poster and I'll tell you all about it. It's not yet confirmed, but I'm, working out the details. But it looks like I will be having a speaking engagement out in Los Angeles. That is coming up June 8th and June 9th. We'll see. Not yet confirmed, but if details, if this becomes finalized, if everything is in order, I will let you know. But if you're in the Los Angeles area, maybe start making a note of that. So there you go. Those are the big announcements that I've got. Dr. Shiva tomorrow, DC this weekend, possibly Los Angeles, June 8th and 9th. In other news, join the Center for Political Innovation. We do great work, great anti-imperialist organizing. We could always use more members. You can join the organization at cpiusa.org. I will drop the link in the chat. The Center for Political Innovation. We have our weekly Zoom call. We have a lot of exciting operations coming up. So always an opportunity to get involved. Join the Center for Political Innovation. We've got 160 members, I believe, at this point, and we're doing great stuff. We continue to get a lot of appreciation from the Uhuru movement for all the support we've offered them. We've got some exciting activities coming up this summer. So there you go. There you go. Those are the announcements. So now I will be getting in to my opening remarks for tonight. But before I do that, let me remind you that the second half of the show is all me answering your questions. And I will say, last night, you all just asked amazing questions, right? It was a late night stream, and it was I think it was like almost 2 a.m. by the time, maybe even 2:30 in the morning by the time we ended. But you all just kept asking great questions and getting me talking. And it was beautiful. It was absolutely beautiful last night. Last night's stream was really something special because I got asked about many, many different topics about which I had something to say, and it was great. So I would ask you for a repeat performance. I saw Funky was in the chat saying it's Groundhog Day. So if it's Groundhog Day, if it is indeed Groundhog Day, by all means, let's do a repeat performance. Ask me more great questions about topics that I know about. Let's do that. That will be great. And I would be very, very happy to answer your super chat questions tonight. So super chats, getting me talking about stuff I know about, are always appreciated. They are always appreciated. And I'm always happy to answer your questions that way. So by all means, send me your Send me your super chats, send me your Rumble rants, give me something to talk about in the second half of the show. So I'm going to jump into my opening remarks at this point. I'm just going to talk about what is on my mind, what it is that I wanted to talk to you all about. Now, the topic for my opening remarks for tonight, as you probably saw, I'm going to talk some North Korea. Because North Korea is an issue that I pay close attention to. I am an advocate of the peaceful reunification of the Korean Peninsula. I sympathize with North Korea and the achievements they've had, industrializing their country, wiping out homelessness and illiteracy, launching spacecraft into orbit, modern satellites, and doing it in the face of all-out U.S. attack, the Korean War that killed millions of people, the brutal sanctions that were imposed and the crushing of North Korea's food system in the 1990s that led to many deaths of malnutrition. North Korea have great victories and achievements. And North Korea's latest victory and achievement came 2 weeks ago on TikTok. And I don't know if you saw, but 2 weeks ago on TikTok, North Korea released a song, a patriotic song honoring Kim Jong-un. And this song went viral because it was just a damn good song. It just, it has, it's got a good beat to it. It's got good rhythm, good music to it. But then in addition to that, this song also caused South Korea to go so crazy that just today, South Korea outlawed this song specifically. They already have a law banning any pro-North Korea statements or anything under their national security law. They went as far as actually outlawing this song. So I'm going to put the song that the South Korean government outlawed, the song that went viral on TikTok, the song that has anti-North Korean trolls furious, this song that is supposed to be such evil, vile propaganda. All right. Keep in mind, this song is supposed to be like the most evil, extreme brainwashing propaganda. So cover your eyes and cover your ears. There's a good chance that watching this will make you go into a trance and start chanting, Kim Jong-un is my savior, Kim Jong-un is my savior, death to U.S. imperialism, death to U.S. imperialism. I mean, this is just dangerous, deadly propaganda, right? We know how YouTube banned the YouTube channel of a teenage girl in North Korea who had videos about going fishing with her grandpa and eating popsicles. And now TikTok has not banned this video, and South Korea is furious. How dare TikTok not ban this video? And MSNBC and BBC and CNN have called this a vile, vile propaganda song. So get ready, brace yourselves for the they call this psychological warfare is the headline. They called this song Psychological Warfare. This song is psychological warfare. So get ready, brace yourselves for the epic psychological warfare of Friendly Father. This is the song that has been heard round the world, like the shot heard round the world at the beginning of the American Revolution. This is the song heard round the world. This is an act of psychological warfare brought to you by the Korean Workers' Party and the Juche ideology. Here we go. Wow. Now, are you all still alive? Because that was a dangerous psychological warfare operation. You're all supposed to be dead by now. That song is so dangerous that the South Korean government had to outlaw it. BBC, NBC, CNN, Fox News were all telling us that it was dangerous psychological warfare. This was part of why they need to ban TikTok, is because people might watch this on TikTok. This song, that song you just watched, I think it was awesome. I think it was absolutely awesome. That was amazing. I am utterly blown away by North Korea, and wow. Wow. Yes, Yunomi Park must have been crying somewhere. This is epic. I just must say, in all seriousness, that was utterly amazing. I mean, that was really, really good music, good cinematography, good. I mean, that was great. That was genius. I don't know how long. I mean, do you see how many? Like, I'm going to put the music off, but just take a look at the video, right? You got the kids, you got the factory workers, you got the Olympic team, right? The Olympic athletes. You got people in the apartment building. You got the official orchestra. You got the military. I mean, do you know how many? I don't even know who those guys are, right? The paper airplane team, or go through it. So many different kids on the school bus, and just how many people were involved in the making of this film, right? The guys in the steel mill, the guys in the boat, the guys in the factory. The women in the clothing store, right? I mean, it's like they must have gotten thousands of people together to make this epic music video, right? The COVID testing team, right? Look at that. It's a COVID testing team, right? And and then they got who is this? The hospital, the surgeons, the surgeon team at a hospital. Look at this. How many different places in North Korea did they have to go to get people? Right, the airline team and the the old grandmothers, and I mean, this is, I mean, the official state orchestra, right? I mean, look at this, right? And the school kids, and the Air Force, the Korean Air Force, and the special forces fighters, and the sailors. I mean, it's like everywhere. And the junior military kids, and the whole military, and the I don't even know. I mean, it's like the cross section of North Korean society. I mean, this is, look at all of this, right? That's the news team of the people who do their nightly news in North Korea. Like, this was some really, really epic. This is an epic video, right? Think about it. I mean, of all the like epic videos that you've ever seen promoting a country, right? I think after 9/11 in New York City, they did those "I love New York" ads to urge you to go to New York City to be a tourist. And it's like, I think they have ads urging you to film movies in Tunisia. And I mean, this is out of this world. I mean, this is of all the like travel movies promoting a country that you've ever seen, is this not like the best one you've ever seen? I mean, this is epic. This is absolutely epic. They did an amazing job, right? They took their job very, very seriously. They probably worked on this for years. They researched different promotional advertisements. They investigated, like, what is it that people think North Korea is? How can we change people's perception of North Korea? And I mean, this is the result of the collective work of thousands and thousands and thousands of people. They probably workshopped this with many, many different audiences, and they did a million takes of this. And I mean, this is really, really good. They did a really good job with this video. I think that this is absolutely tremendous. I of all the like videos promoting a country I've ever seen, this has got to be the best one I have ever seen. I have never seen a video promoting a country that is this good. And that's why they're fuming over it. They're furious, and South Korea officially outlawed the video. And the BBC and NBC denounced it, and they're mad at TikTok. How dare TikTok let this video go viral? This is great, right? And it's great on a number of levels, because on the one hand, right, there is this image that the North Koreans are all like super serious, right, and all of that. And then you've got the woman, singing in her like kind of rock and roll kind of way. Look, she's not too serious, and you got kids having fun. But it also shows that they've got a military that's very, very together. It also shows that they have fun in North Korea. They've got clothing stores. This was like, it gave you an image of North Korea that is different than the one you already have. But it's not so different that you wouldn't believe it, right? I mean, it does show, the worship of Kim Jong-un. It does show the militarization, because that country is heavily, heavily militarized, right? This is brilliant. I mean, this is absolutely brilliant. I think they did an amazing job. I am utterly blown away and impressed by North Korea's film, right? Just utterly impressed by this. I think this is tremendous. This is great. And I understand why the U.S. government, the Western media, the South Korean government are so furious about it. But I also want to mention that this comes at a time that things are really, really bad on the Korean Peninsula. Things have not been as bad on the Korean Peninsula as they are now in a really long time. There are contested territories, contested islands. There are weapons tests going on, and whenever they report on the situation in the Korean Peninsula in American media, they always leave out what the United States and what South Korea are doing. They always make it sound like North Korea is just shooting missiles out of the blue to be scary, and they never show the context. And it's rather important, because right now, the United States is threatening, and this has gotten like no attention in American media. The United States is threatening nuclear attack on North Korea and nuclear attack on Russian forces in Ukraine. I don't know if you saw this or not. It's gotten very little attention over here in the press. But the US government just conducted a subcritical nuclear test. And I did a story on this for RT. This is actually a very big deal. Now the United States government has put a moratorium on all nuclear tests that involve actual explosions. But a subcritical nuclear test, that is a nuclear test that involves basically making sure the nukes work. You don't actually set one off, but you see if it works. And the U.S. government is now threatening to nuke Russian forces in Ukraine. And I did a story on the subcritical nuclear tests and on the Russian forces in Ukraine and the threats against Ukraine and North Korea's response to the U.S. government's subcritical nuclear test. North Korea just announced they're expanding their nuclear arsenal. I did this report, so I'll just put my report from RT on, so you can see this just kind of goes over the facts.
Tolerate the creation of a strategic imbalance and security vacuum in the Korean Peninsula, but will firmly defend its security, rights and interests through powerful deterrent action against the evolving nuclear threat from the US.
There's only one country that's ever used atomic bombs. That was the United States, that used nuclear weapons on Hiroshima and Nagasaki. The people of Hiroshima spoke up in the aftermath of the recent provocative drills by the United States.
On behalf of the atomic-bombed city of Hiroshima, I vehemently protest and demand that all future nuclear tests be cancelled. I strongly urge the United States to reflect deeply on the horrific realities of what a single atomic bomb did to Hiroshima and the tragic experiences of the survivors.
The decried subcritical nuclear tests were done in Nevada. Here's how the U.S. National Nuclear Security Agency described them.
On the evening of May 14th, the U.S. Department of Energy's National Nuclear Security Administration successfully executed a subcritical experiment. NNSA relies on subcritical experiments to collect valuable information to support the safety, security, reliability, and effectiveness of America's nuclear warheads, without the use of nuclear explosive testing. The nuclear security enterprise will use the results of this experiment to improve our modeling and simulation capability, part of the science-based stockpile stewardship program that NNSA has led for over 30 years.
In 1992, the United States declared a moratorium on full-on nuclear tests with explosions. However, tests like the recent one, the provocative subcritical nuclear tests that flaunt nuclear prowess and demonstrate the ability to destroy millions of lives, have continued. The USA has never signed the Nuclear Test Ban Treaty, and it claims that these recent subcritical tests are in full compliance with all international law. However, the context of the recent tests makes them a little bit more alarming. Let's recall how recently U.S. Senator Lindsey Graham defended the use of atomic bombs against Hiroshima and Nagasaki.
When we were faced with destruction as a nation after Pearl Harbor, fighting the Germans and the Japanese, we decided to end the war by bombing Hiroshima and Nagasaki with nuclear weapons. That was the right decision. To Israel, do whatever you have to do to survive as a Jewish state.
Japanese officials were horrified by the rhetoric of Lindsey Graham, to say the least, and they come at a time when Western leaders say that threatening to bring nuclear weapons into the Ukraine conflict is simply fair game.
It's just reckless and irresponsible for the leader of a major nuclear-armed power to be saber-rattling the way that he is with respect to potential use for nuclear weapons. Obviously, we monitor this and have continued to monitor this very closely. I can tell you we've seen nothing, even despite the reckless rhetoric, that would cause us to change our strategic deterrent posture. And look, lastly, if Mr. Putin and Russian officials are worried about their troops in Ukraine getting hit with weapons from other countries, then the easiest thing to do is just take your troops and leave.
Nobody wins a nuclear war. That's a reality that has haunted the planet for decades. So with international tensions rising in a number of theaters right now, you would think it's just common sense that you shouldn't be flaunting your nuclear arsenal at this moment. However, when met with criticism, U.S. media and U.S. leaders have an oft-used rebuttal. It's all Russia's fault. However, Russia has not engaged in the type of provocative drills we just saw in Nevada. Caleb Maupin, RT, New York.
Yeah, and we have the USA testing its nuclear systems and its nuclear weapons, and then talking about possibly using them on Russian forces in Ukraine. North Korea saying they're going to expand their nuclear arsenal. This is not good. This is a very, very bad situation on the Korean Peninsula. So for North Korea to drop that beautiful piece of art, that beautiful music performance, that is really, really important. The fact that they did that right now, because this is not a message of hate. Let me put it on again. I'll put the music off and you can just watch the images on the screen, right? Because what we're told about North Korea is that they want to kill us all. They want to kill us all. They want to nuke us all. Look at this video, right? Look at the video. Do these people want to kill us? Do these people want to murder us? Is that the message that they're putting out there? Does this video say we're going to nuke the whole world and kill everybody in order to spread communism? Is that what this video says? That's not what I see in these faces, right? I do not see a message of hate, a message calling for war, a message of militarism and death. I do see a lot of military people. I see a lot of sailors, a lot of construction workers, a lot of school kids, a lot of tour buses, but I don't see a message of hate. The North Koreans don't want to kill everyone. They don't want a war with the rest of the world. They want to not have sanctions. They want economic development. They want foreign investment. That's what they want. That's what they're looking for. This is not a video put out to tell the world, oh my God, we're going to kill you all. That's not what's going on. This is a video showing the world that we're people just like you. We love our leader because our leader, his father and his grandfather represent our movement of national liberation. And we love our leader and we love our country and we are happy. And can't we all just get along? And that's why this video irks them so much. It defies the propaganda about what we are told North Korea really is. And the other thing that I think is beautiful about this video is that this is illiberal. Right? This is illiberalism because this is very much about group identity. This is very much about collective vision. This is not the liberal society that says individualism above all else, screw other people. This is very much a video that promotes love and community, right? I feel like we're entering an age where people are so atomized from each other. And what I see here is a group of people that rely on each other because of the circumstances that they're in, because the United States government has killed millions of them and threatened them. They have to rely on each other. They have to cooperate with each other. And that's what I see. That's what I see in this video. I see a group of people that rely on each other and cooperate with each other. And this is when, Alexander Dugin, the Russian philosopher who I've met with, when he talks about the ideology of liberalism that puts individualism above all else, that breaks down any sense of group identity. So it breaks us all down into atomized individuals so that the ultra rich can rule without any resistance. North Korea is very much the antidote to Western liberal ideology. This is a collectivist group of people. This is a group of people with a shared vision and a shared ideology, a shared national leader that they look up to. This is like the antidote to Western liberalism. And I think deep down, this is also what millions and millions of people in the West are longing for. They want to be part of a community. They want to not feel like they're left alone and they're abandoned, right? And I feel so many people in our Western society do feel like they are completely abandoned, feel like no one cares about them. And, they look at this and they see a group of people that are working together. They all have a place, they have a common vision. And as much as we've been inoculated against this, and they've told us every goddamn lie about North Korea that you would ever believe. I mean, we were told that Kim Jong-un executed people by feeding them to wild dogs. That was a lie. We're told that, that the trains don't work. They have to push them. That's what, Mi Park says. That's obviously a lie. We're told that Kim Jong-un has the world's largest collection of pornography. That's a lie. They just tell us lie after lie after lie after North Korea. They claim that Kim Jong-un supposedly invented the hamburger. That's a lie. They just tell us so many lies about North Korea. But yet, when people see videos like this, they say, look, these people can't just be the monsters, the menace that we're taught that they are, right? These people are people just like us, but there's something different. They have a different mindset, right? And that is why they've been able to stand and withstand so much attack from the United States. And that is something that, again, U.S. mainstream media likes to obscure. And I must say that one thing that I have frequently pointed out, which mainstream media works very, very hard to obscure, is the fact that North Korea was a big supporter of the Black Panther Party. And I know this. And, it's interesting. One of the reasons that I'm aware of this is because of the fact that, I remember when I was a member of the Workers' World Party in Detroit, they had the complete writings of Kim Il-sung in their office. I only have a couple volumes of somebody else's writings of Kim Il-sung, right? I have a couple of the selected works. They had the complete works. It's many volumes of the writings of Kim Il-sung. And I remember I asked them where they got their complete works of Kim Il-sung. And they said they got them from when the Black Panther Party of Detroit closed its office down. They had the complete works of Kim Il-sung in the office of the Black Panthers. And that, it was pointed out to me by some of the older members that North Korea had a very special relationship with the Black Panther Party. And this is the kind of thing that I know, and it drives me up the wall because all these woke people claim they love the Black Panthers. No, they do not love the Black Panthers. The Black Panthers were hardcore tankies and Marxist-Leninists. This is the cover of a Black Panther newspaper, right? This is an issue of the Black Panther. I think the date on there is 1970. And it's got Kim Il-sung at the top, and it's got Ho Chi Minh, and it's got Mao. That was the cover of a Black Panther Party newspaper, honoring Kim Il-sung, honoring Ho Chi Minh, honoring Mao Zedong. Eldridge Cleaver, a leader of the Black Panthers, he led kind of a left adventurist split from the Black Panthers, and then he moved to North Korea. And when he moved to North Korea, while he was living in North Korea, he had a daughter, and he lived in North Korea for many years. Many years he lived in North Korea, and he had a daughter. One of his daughters was actually born in North Korea. Wow, this is a Black Panther Party poster honoring North Korea. Here, I'll put this on the screen. This is wild. Look at this. This is an actual Black Panther Party publication. In North Korea, North Vietnam, Peking, China, we were greeted as the anti-imperialist delegation and as human beings and as respected members of the human race. Boom. Boom. That tells you right there. All these woke people, if they love the Black Panthers, they should love North Korea. And they should respect people who do love North Korea. And that's always driven me up the wall because I hear them, first thing that they'll say is, oh, we love the Black Panthers. And the next thing they'll say is anyone who loves North Korea is actually a Nazi. Well, someone needs to slap them in the face and say the Black Panthers loved North Korea. And in fact, of all the communist governments in the world, North Korea was the one that they had a particularly close relationship with. They obviously they got money from Gaddafi, from Libya, and they got support from they went to China and they studied Mao's Red Book. But the Black Panthers and North Korea were particularly close, right? Here's another centerfold from the Black Panther newspaper. I'll show you. This is wild. Take a look at this one. This is, this is Eldridge Cleaver, Solidarity of the Peoples Until Victory or Death. That's Eldridge Cleaver surrounded by images of Kim Il-sung. So this idea that, oh, well, the Black Panthers, they would never like tankies. Give me a break. Give me a break. The Black Panthers loved North Korea. Eldridge Cleaver even published an edition of Kim Il-sung's writings. And that comes across if you read any like real history of the Black Panthers. You will see in the official history they talk about that. Mumia Abu Jamal talks about Kim Il-sung and his writings being published in the Black Panther newspaper. That just blatantly comes across. So of course our Western leaders and now that they're doing this woke thing, they really try to obscure that, but it is really the truth. And if anyone admires the Black Panthers and their support for and their work, they should also admire North Korea, because North Korea was very much aligned with them. In fact, there is a short documentary about an African American group that went to North Korea, that was somewhat sympathetic. I might put a little bit of this on. I'm not going to show the whole thing, but I might put this on. Andrew Jones was an African American journalist from the United States, kind of a Black activist, and he went to North Korea in 1994. And he made like a short documentary kind of defending them against some of the lies about them in American media. So I may put that on briefly. If you all will bear with me, I may actually put that on very briefly. I'm just waiting for it to download. I think that would be good for us to watch on here. But yeah, it's just, the Black Panthers were awesome and the Black Panthers were tankies. And, Fred Hampton, if you listen to the speeches of Fred Hampton, he was an ideological Marxist. He was very much so an ideological Marxist. And those who try to tell you that he wasn't, or that he just wanted a worker cooperative or any of that other nonsense, they're just not being honest with you about the history. And Fred Hampton honored the Black Panthers. Obviously he honored the Black Panthers, but he honored North Korea. He honored Mao Zedong and Kim Il-sung. And so, it just must be pointed out that there is a contradiction in that kind of liberal thinking. But there you go. There you go. If you watch, there's a whole documentary film, The Murder of Fred Hampton. And what comes across in that film, it was made by the Newsreel Collective. What comes across in that film is how much of an ideological Marxist Fred Hampton really was. He very much believed in communism because that was the basis of the Black Panther Party. That was the basis of the free breakfast program that he built. They were a Marxist organization if there ever was one. So I think, I will put on a clip of Fred Hampton speaking. And then after that, I will put on this documentary by an African-American journalist who went to North Korea in 1994. We'll watch it for a little bit. We're not going to watch the whole thing on here because it's long. But we will watch a lot of it, I think, because again, we need to reclaim our history. This woke nonsense, that is not our political heritage, right? We are the political heritage of William Z. Foster and Gus Hall. We are the political heritage of Huey Newton and Bobby Seale and John Brown and Harriet Tubman. Our political heritage is the anti-imperialist working class organizing that has gone on here in the history of this country. That is our political heritage. And we must not let it be commandeered by degrowth elements. I mean, let me just point this out, right? People ask me why I complain about PSL so much, the Party of Socialism and Liberation. I just want to point this out. All over the world, what do communists do? They build power plants, right? I've talked on here endlessly. I've shown you many times the clip of the woman talking about how they built the Dnieper Dam, the world's largest hydroelectrical power plant in Ukraine. China has the Three Gorges Dam, the biggest power plant, the biggest hydroelectrical power plant in the world. In the Aswan Dam in Egypt, the Soviet Union teamed up with Abdel Nasser, the great socialist leader. They electrified Egypt. Right now, China is going all over the world building power plants, hydroelectrical power plants, coal power plants. Communists build power plants. And what will you find in PSL's platform, right? If you go to Vote PSL, what is it? VotePSL.org, right? VotePSL.org, I think is their website, right? If you go to their website, you will find that their platform their program literally calls for destroying America's power plants. I am not exaggerating. Their platform, I will read to you from their platform, right? I mean, you can't make this up, right? The Vote PSL platform calls for destroying the power plants of the United States, right? Let me pull it up, right? PSL 2024 campaign. Hold on. Just going to pull up the website. I just want to read it to you straight from the horse's mouth. Straight from the horse's mouth. I will, Claudia and Karina 2024, Vote Socialist 2024, our program, the last one, Save Our Planet from Capitalism. This is what it says, quote, fossil fuel corporations should be immediately taken over by the public and repurposed to generate renewable energy. So, do you hear that? All fossil fuel corporations immediately get taken over and replaced with windmills and solar panels. That is the first sentence of a paragraph there. Do you realize what that would do? That would result in the United States having 25% of the electricity that it has now, if that. It says fossil fuel corporations, all fossil fuel corporations get taken over and turned into windmills and solar panels. Communists all over the world are building power plants, electrifying countries. China is teaming up with various countries around the world to build power plants, to bring people who've never had electricity to light up Central Asia, to light up Africa. And PSL's platform literally calls for de-electrifying America. But you know that New York City would still have power, and so would Los Angeles. And you know that the big cities would still have it. This is just genocide against red state people, against rural people, against people who live in rural areas, those hillbillies, those racist Trumpers, those deplorables. That's what they want. They want to genocide low-income people in the United States who aren't rich enough to live in gentrified urban centers, who aren't rich enough to go to NYU and study gender studies and get an A+ because they can spell woman with a Y, right? That's really what it's all about. Another thing that is in their platform, and I'll just point this out, is that they call for enhancing the laws against lobbying. Enhancing the laws against lobbying. Now, do you know what law the Uhuru movement has been charged under? Under the FARA law, the Foreign Agents Registration Act, which is the law regulating foreign lobbyists. So they basically want to beef up the laws that are being used to imprison and black revolutionary activists in the United States right now. That's what they're calling for. I mean, it's in their platform. There is a call for beefing up the anti-lobbying laws. And what's crazy is Biden's already doing this. Biden is already de-electrifying America. Have you looked at California lately? How they're having blackouts constantly, how the power grid collapsed in Texas. The Uhuru movement have already been indicted. Like, they're basically just calling for what Biden is already doing, de-electrifying the country, making everyone poorer in order to help Wall Street stay rich, using, anti-corruption laws to imprison opposition political figures like the Uhuru movement, like Donald Trump. This is not a socialist platform. It is not a socialist platform at all. It is a platform of beefing up the ability of the United States ultra rich to lock down the country and take us toward a low-wage police state. And you'll notice that their platform doesn't even include an opposition to the police state. Instead of saying, opposition to the police state, defend civil liberties, it says instead, end the war on Black America. So no attempt to build solidarity against police state repression, make it racial, just like CNN does, right? I'm curious, does the name Julian Assange show up one place in their platform? I'm scanning it right now. I do not see the name Julian Assange anywhere in their goddamn platform. I don't see the Uhuru movement mentioned anywhere in their goddamn platform, right? I do not see Edward Snowden listed anywhere in their platform. I do not see Tara Reade listed anywhere in their platform. I'm just telling you. They've got a paragraph, bribery in America is legal, recognized industry called lobbying. This practice must be outlawed. Oh, just like Rachel Maddow, all politicians should be banned from serving on the board of corporations. Just money out of politics, like Elizabeth Warren. Corporations are not people, and you look at this. You look at this. There is no call to free any of the people that are suffering right now, that are being cracked down on by the Biden administration. There's a call to de-electrify the country. There is an attempt to separate the struggle against the police state on racial lines, to isolate the Black liberation struggle and keep it separate from other Americans who would oppose the police state. Nothing about Assange, nothing about Uhuru, nothing about Tara Reade, nothing about Edward Snowden. I mean, and, they want an end to lobbying, money out of politics, enhancing the lobbying laws to imprison people like the Uhuru movement. I mean, this is ridiculous, right? And so I just thought I would mention that. But anyway, I said I was going to put on Fred Hampton. My goodness, I'm still not done downloading Fred Hampton. Well, I will keep talking about other things, but I don't know why this thing is moving so slowly. But I mean, it's worth criticizing these things, I think. But anyway, emo Caleb is scary. What does that mean? What does that mean? Emo Caleb is scary. What does that mean? What are you trying to say there? Tapage, right? Who was that? Tapage. What are you saying there? Tapage. Emo Caleb is scary. Mwahaha. Mwahaha. All righty. All right. Good times. Good times, right? But thank you all for waiting. Seriously, I repeat myself. It is better to stream late than not stream at all. And engaging with all of you always cheers me up. I'll just tell you that. When I've had a day that's taken a lot of stress out of me or whatever, when I get on here and start talking to you all, it cheers me up because you all are the best. You all are great. So yeah. So there you go. Caleb, do you hate capitalists? No, I don't. And I maintain that capitalists are going to be an essential part of building American socialism. Just like in Nicaragua, how they have a micro entrepreneurship program, just like in China, how they have a state sector, right? We're going to need capitalists, innovators, inventors, people who start their own businesses to be, to be kind of the fuel that goes along with an overall state central plan in order to make sure that growth continues, and is unabetted, right? I don't hate capitalists, absolutely not, right? 21st century socialism includes private capitalists, cooperatives, as well as state industries, right? And that's the socialist world has largely changed, right? There has been a shift in thinking. I'm an advocate of 21st century socialism. We talk about in China, their system's called socialism with Chinese characteristics. In America, I think we're going to have a form of socialism with American characteristics. So there you go. So that's just random. I'm just telling you while we're waiting for Fred Hampton to download, I'm telling you what I think. So there you go. There you go. But yeah. There you go. But yeah, go watch Terry's streams, by the way. She's been having a lot of education on there, talking about religious concepts. She's got a fun audience. Terry was streaming earlier today. I tuned in for a little bit of it. It was certainly good stuff. Terry does great work. And I met Terry out in Portland, and she came to our CPI conference. And I've been watching Terry for years. She's come on this channel before for streams before. Terry does good stuff, and it's always a fun discussion. So yeah, Terry does great stuff. So go and subscribe to her channel because you will not regret it. Let me just put it that way. You will not regret it. You won't regret it. But yeah. The other thing I'll just mention quickly, I'm thinking about the Donald Trump trial. I think Donald Trump is going to be convicted. And the reason that I think Donald Trump is going to be convicted is because of the fact that I know very few New Yorkers who would not convict Donald Trump. There are some, but I would say there are very, very few people in New York City who would be able to look their friends and family in the face if they voted to acquit Donald Trump. I think he will be convicted. I don't think that will be a fair carrying out of the law. I don't think that's, the case, but I think he will be convicted. However, I don't feel like the government is prepared to actually imprison Donald Trump to keep him from running for president. And I feel like there will be a technicality or something to prevent that from happening. Because at this point, Biden is so unpopular. If Donald Trump is sitting in a jailed cell when it's time to vote in November, I don't even know how. I don't even know how this country will not fall apart. Honestly, I feel like Trump is going to win the upcoming election. I feel like they've made some kind of deal with Trump and they've given him certain regulations about how he can conduct himself. But what do I know? And I'm looking forward to hearing from Donald Trump on Saturday. I'll see him at the Libertarian Convention. I'll see what he has to say. But I would find it very shocking if Donald Trump ends up spending the campaign in a jail cell. I feel like that is something the country is not prepared for. So I expect a conviction. I expect that the jury will convict. And then my prediction is that afterwards there will be some kind of technicality where they let him off, or they give him time served, or they give him a fine or something. That I don't think that they are prepared to have an election from a jail cell. I just feel like the elites of our country can't possibly be that stupid. So there we go. So there you go. Well, I'm glad that people can admit that PSL's de-electrification vision is scary. And I'm glad because degrowth stuff is the standard on the left now. It's Malthusian ideology. The idea that somehow human beings are the problem, not capitalism, not the irrationality of the capitalist system, but we just need to degrow. There's just too many people in the world. There's too much consumption. We need to reduce living standards in order to save capitalism. It's a really, really Big problem. So yeah. So there you go. I mean, this is not the Marxist ideology. And if you read Theories of Surplus Value, which is a very important work by Marx, right? This is volume 1. It's in multiple volumes, but it's Theories of Surplus Value. He critiques Malthus, and he goes over how Malthus' concept of overpopulation is just economically bullshit. Human beings are the source of all wealth. Human labor. So if you have more people, that means more labor power exists. The idea that human beings are what they call non-productive consumers, that's false. Human labor is the source of all wealth. So more people means more wealth being generated. And technological advances make human labor more productive. The problem is the irrationality of the capitalist system. And the idea that you have non-productive consumers, useless eaters, right? That's kind of the basis of it. He doesn't call them that. Malthus didn't call them that. He called them non-productive consumers. Marx just rips that to shreds. And it's nothing more than a lampoon against the French Revolution. That's what the theory of overpopulation really was when Malthus came up with it. But it's an attempt to reset their economic system. Yeah. That's what it is. So yeah, I do not know why this is taking so long. So I'll tell you what we'll do. We'll start watching the African American journalist in North Korea. We'll start that first, and then if Fred Hampton ever downloads, we'll watch that. So there we go. An African American's journal inside of North Korea from 1994.
Welcome to tonight's edition of Say Brother. I'm Dolores Handy. One of the ongoing international news stories of the last several years is that of North Korea and whether or not it has the bomb, a commonly used euphemism for nuclear weapons capability. North Korea is one of the last bastions of Soviet-style communism. It remains a communist stronghold long after the collapse of the Soviet Union. Tonight, Say Brother takes a look inside the Society of the Democratic People's Republic of North Korea in this installment of our international series, an African American's Journal. Correspondent Andrew P. Jones traveled throughout the northern half of the Korean peninsula as part of a people-to-people study tour.
3 main reasons why our society was successful in the last 45 years is that we had a unity, firstly. Secondly, the people were hardworking, and we had a good idea.
I just would like to call upon the U.S. to allow the people of the world to live in peace, to allow the Korean people to live in peace.
In Pyongyang, the capital of North Korea, the eastern morning sun shines on the buildings downtown, some old, others new. Children march to school as the city awakens slowly and the people here prepare to face the day.
What were the children singing?
I think they were singing one of the revolutionary songs composed during the anti-Japanese Revolutionary War. Actually, the guerrillas composed many songs, and the content of the song reads that the coward, you may go if you like, but we'll stay here forever, holding high the banner of revolution, something like that.
이 시기에 저는 흑인들을 많이 보기도 했거니와 심리학자를 이제 죽이기도 했고 또 포로도 했습니다. During the wartime, I saw many black men. When I say like this, don't be angry. Clear? In fact, I killed some black men, and I also captured some black men. In fact.
I came to this country with the largest delegation of Americans to visit the Democratic People's Republic of Korea since the Korean War. The group was composed of political activists, lawyers, students, journalists, and clergy. The idea was for those of us from the West to get acquainted with our counterparts in the East, come together with a consensus on the reunification of Korea, and make a statement against the possible outbreak of a nuclear war.
We wanted to organize a delegation that was reflective of the progressive movement in the United States and would be respectful too and be able to show solidarity to the Koreans.
Quite honored to be here participating in this here very important conference for the reunification of Korea and the getting of the USA out of South Korea.
For me, this is a great experience. I mean, I will go back to the United States and I will be able to discuss with young Americans in a very intelligent manner what the issues are that concern the Korean people.
During our stay, we would travel by bus, by train, and by air to see the land and meet the people of this nation. We would meet the Korean people formally and informally, make speeches, hold casual conversations, dine together, and dance together. Ours would be a meeting of hearts and minds from opposite corners of the world.
The blacks in America, they are humiliated, oppressed, exploited by the white imperialists. If American progressive people, including black Americans, are awakened more and more, to my mind, they will achieve their goal and purpose. So, at present, to my mind, what is most important task for progressive journalists, including Andrew Jones and other writers and journalists, correspondents, is to awaken the people consciously and purposefully.
Like my distinguished comrades, I too have only been here a few days. I feel, however, that this country is my home, because in the Korean eyes, in the eyes of the Korean people, I see a love of humanity that I can only hope for in my own country. I am a black man. My skin is the color of the summer earth, the color of the bark of the tree, of the night, the full moon, and the dancing stars.
No, see, this is like a hip-hop interpretation of the joint. You know, like we've been down with this thing for like a week, right? And my thing is that, you know, like when socialists talk about socialism, they always talk about when Marx farted and when Lenin had to go to the bathroom and all this kind of stuff. And so, like, the deal, particularly for the people and the people of color, is to like break all this stuff down into hip-hop boogaloo, you know, the language of the 21st century and beyond, you know, like the blood on the street thing, and then make it kind of, you know, happening so that people can, you know, relate to the get down part of it rather than the high pie in the sky, you know, Russian, Korean theoretical part of it. And so, like, you know, when we can break it down and explain it to the masses, man, it'd be bad, it'd be live, it'd be happening.
Even though you could say most of us were sympathetic with the North Korean people, we were still queasy when we arrived. I expected to meet a rigid people, firmly indoctrinated into communism, firm also in their hatred of the West. But what I found, what I saw and heard during my 3 weeks here, was so radically different from what I expected that these few pages of my journal, an African American's journal, can hardly convey our surprise.
What it means to me is discovering a whole new reality. Before coming to North Korea, I had been bombarded, and I was concerned about this notion that this country, it's a backward country, a country where everybody's mind is controlled, a country where there's no creativity, a country where people can't think for themselves, where there's a cult of the personality, a country where everybody's repressed and living conditions are very, very terrible. So coming here and seeing the reality as I perceive it means that that there's something very different, something very new taking place here, something from which we can learn a lot. Certainly, I don't think that any of us in the United States want to live like here. You know, this is not our lifestyle. I mean, this is not our tradition. This is not our history. But I think that on matters of substance, there is a hell of a lot that we can learn from a country like this.
North Korea is the most staunchly communist country in the world. For 4 decades, it's been perceived in the West as a closed society. But up close, it takes on a different face, the open face of the North Korean people.
In fact, to my mind, American people have a good tradition. May Day, the International Workers' Day, May Day, was originally born in America, in Chicago, correct? Correct. American people demonstrated the revolutionary spirit at that time to the world. This is the example for the world people, how to struggle.
The Koreans say the individual is at the center of society. They say that the greatness of a nation can be measured by the extent to which it cares for its people, particularly the children.
How do the people appear to you? Do the people appear repressed? Or?
No, they're very relaxed, at ease, leisurely pace, children playing everywhere, on the countryside, in the streets. Look at them. Wonderful.
In Korea, as in most communist countries, education is free.
Hello, good morning. I'm me. Are you Bill Jones? Yes, I am. How are you? Fine, thanks. How is Ellen? She's very well, thanks. Good afternoon, Mr. Green. Good evening, Mrs. Brown. How are you this evening? Good night, Pam. Goodbye, Jones. See you tomorrow.
We're very people conscious. We're very people conscious.
How can you tell?
You just look around. I mean, everywhere there's an image of, you know, a worker, a farmer, you know, women. Women are in every single image that I see displayed, which tells me that women have a very important role in society. And it's just ordinary people in very grand kind of situations.
This woman is in charge of this medical facility, one of several in the country devoted to women's health care. North Koreans say their infant mortality rates are among the lowest in the third world.
And as all of you know, the dental hygiene is very important for pregnant women. And of course, some women are in hospital just to give birth to their babies. But in that case, if they have some problem, in that case, they also come to this place and are treated free of charge.
Stretching 7 miles across the mouth of the Taedong River and named the West Sea Barrage by the Koreans, the world's longest dam separates fresh water on the right from salt water on the left. It was built by soldiers whom the Koreans say must be kept mobilized because of the constant threat of war.
About 30,000 soldiers.
Anyway, that's great. I think I will post that on my other channel so that that it's preserved. You know, you never know what's going to happen with these other YouTube channels, but I will post that on my other YouTube channel, I think, to preserve it. So I'm going to put on Fred Hampton, the brief clip of Fred Hampton talking Marxist theory, and then we will do our roll call. And yeah, great to be here with all of you tonight. Here we go.
You basically knowing my ideology, basically you knowing yours, you can
support some of our programs. Is that what you're saying?
Why not?
And you believe in programs like the Breakfast for Children program and free health clinics? Right on, brothers?
We believe they're good things.
Uh-huh.
As a focal point to organize their mothers and fathers.
Uh-huh.
Peace.
Mm-hmm. There's no educational program here?
That's come out of the social action thing. You know, you set that up, but I mean, we can't put everything on one piece of paper.
What about this bank?
Credit union?
Mm-hmm.
Credit union. Credit union, my brother. Is a bank. Are you hip to credit unions? It is a bank.
Yeah, you go and borrow money?
Yeah, it's a bank. It's a bank. Owned by the people, run for the people, and by the people.
What will money be given out to people for?
Well, the people would decide that. You want to buy, you know, whatever, you know, the people in the community decide. You need some living room furniture, maybe? You need a car, maybe?
See, the thing is with me, you dig, I need to know some more about it. I wish you had some more literature about the educational thing here. Because, you dig, as far as we're concerned in the struggle, the way we look at struggle is that this depends on the educational thing, you dig? Because
this depends on the education. Well, the whole thing.
No, but in the end, this does. You can form this with no education. You can form this and this.
No, not the way we're talking about forming it. You know, right. We're talking about forming it right. You know, it's not on the paper. We didn't write it on the paper.
You can form it right with no education.
No.
Let me give you an example. Jomo Kenyatta formed the excellent revolution with no education. And on the day of the end thing, Jomo told the motherfucker, said, well, you know, you can educate, hate the enemy, but I'm your brother. I'll help you lead the revolution. Now I'm going to oppress you. Another example, Papa Doc in Haiti. Papa Doc in Haiti hated everything white. Man, you couldn't put this white paper in front of Papa Doc's face. But he moved all the white people out and he took over and be oppressed. He did, because of no education. And the people that had been educated, they just said that we don't hate the motherfucking white people, we hate the oppressor, whether he be white, black, brown, or yellow. So we got to know the educational program to find out what it's going to be in the finale. A lot of people, Jomo Kenyatta is called never a revolutionary, but an ex-revolutionary. So is Papa Doc. They brought on a successful revolution. That thing in the Mao's was a bitch. Bantu freedom fighters, all that kind of action. But what we're saying is that it's the end. That you don't judge Castro now. You can't do it. Nobody in this room could judge whether Castro's going to be a revolutionary or not. You know what I mean? We're talking about things, you know what I mean, with China, the People's Republic, and even at the stage they're in now, talking about even going on further into a communistic state. That's what we're talking about. Those are revolutionary. So we got to understand here the educational program that you have to be able to figure out whether it will go on the right lines where the people will end up in a situation where they can be able to really control themselves. You understand what I'm saying? With no education, the people take this local foundation and start stealing money because they won't be really educated to why it's the people's thing anyway. You understand what I'm saying? With no education, you have neo-colonialism instead of colonialism, like you got in Africa now, like you got in Haiti. So what we're talking about is there has to be an educational program. That's very important. As a matter of fact, it's so important for us that a person has to go through 6 weeks of our political education before he can consider himself a member of the party, able to even run down ideology for the party. Why? Because if they don't have an education, then they're nowhere. You dig what I'm saying? They're nowhere because they don't even know why they're doing what they're doing. You might get people caught up in the emotionalist movement. You understand me? You might get them caught up in because they're poor and they want something. And then if they're not educated, they want more. And before you know it, they'll be capitalists. And before you know it, we have Negro imperialists.
All right. So there you go. So yeah, why don't we do the roll call? Names and locations. Names and locations. I will call you all out as I see you. Names and locations. Names and locations. Who is with us tonight? Names and locations. I will call you all out as I see you. Who is with us tonight? Names and locations. Names and locations. Who's with us? All right. Mark Jones in Utica, New York is always the first one. St. David's, Bermuda. Very, very good. Balu, India at the moment. John Whitty in Houston. Ryan in Kansas City. Cleveland, Dustin Schlesinger. John McCarthy in Chicago. Ed in Louisville. Greg. We got Greg in Newcastle, Australia. Denver, Mosen. Damian Rodriguez in Miami. Blake from Alabama. Sweaty Jenny in Cincinnati. Nadir in Melbourne, Australia. Seasoned noob in China. David Fox. Shout out to David Fox. Chris in Salt Lake City. Toronto, Canada. Son of a King. Virginia. Neil Fraser in Hong Kong. Alex in Brazil. Anthony in Detroit. Denmark. Dan from Nice Wander, Los Angeles area. Singapore, Luca in Singapore, Bangkok. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Phil is with us. Phil in Brooklyn. Fleur in Thailand. Rice from Adelaide, Australia. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Names and locations. Los Angeles got milk. Shanty in Mexico. Welcome, Shanty. Names and locations. Anybody else? UP of Michigan. Leonid in Los Angeles. A lot of Los Angeles folks are here. That's good. And I might be in Los Angeles in a couple of weeks. We'll see. To be announced, to be confirmed. Names and locations. Anybody else? Names and locations tonight. Names and locations. Carolyn and Dario in Brooklyn. Welcome, Carolyn and Dario in Brooklyn. Good to have you with us. Shet in Melbourne. Welcome, Shet. Emperor Penguin is in Texas. Welcome, Emperor Penguin in Texas. I hope that didn't blow you all away. I think I sneezed right into the microphone. Ulf in Sweden. Welcome, Ulf. There we go. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Timo in Finland. Welcome, Timo. And thank you for blessing me, Sebastiano. And Durban, South Africa, Master Jack. Very, very good. Welcome, welcome. Salut out in Iowa. Thank you. Thank you very much. So hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, hit the notifications bell. So quick thing before a couple things. So we got a number of super chats here. We got 3 Rumble rants I can answer, but keep them rolling in because the night is young and, I got plenty of energy, and I can answer your questions. Last night was great because you all got me talking and I answered a lot of questions. So just keep them rolling in. But I do have a special request. I have shown you all that we have this special pamphlet that I am printing up, that I am picking up at the printers tomorrow, or not tomorrow, on Thursday. I guess that is technically tomorrow because it's after midnight. But on Thursday, I am picking up this pamphlet from the printers. Do you believe in growth? Hundreds of copies, thousands of copies, actually. That's our pamphlet. So it's really great. Talks about the Uhuru movement, talks about Russia and China trains and the problems of capitalism and optimism, and critiques wokeism and the synthetic left. Oh, we got Daniel from Madrid. Shout out to Daniel from Madrid. It's a great pamphlet. This is the cover of the pamphlet that we've got. It's a very, very lovely cover. Hold on. I have to close all these Black Panther images. Oh, then I just closed the, Here we go. All right. So this is the cover of the pamphlet, and we're going to be publishing very soon a book version of it. We're putting my speech from the Oregon Convention, as well as the speech from the United Nations, the statement we gave at the United Nations. We're putting that in there, and then it'll be like a decent sized small book that we're putting out. But this is the pamphlet that we're distributing this weekend. Do you believe in growth? It's got Chinese high-speed trains on the cover, and it got a critique of wokeness and synthetic leftism. It's got the Uhuru case in it. It's got the problems of capitalism, the tendency of the falling rate of profit, overproduction. It's got a lot in there. A few people have read it. Peter Coffin's read it. John McCarthy has read it, and it makes a very strong case to people that might be not communists, that Russia and China are their friends and their allies, and that we need an optimistic socialist movement. It basically just tells you what CPI is all about. So what I am asking people to do, if you can do this, it would be very, very helpful, and it would be very, very appreciated. If in order to support our outreach this weekend, in order to help us, get to DC and do the work that we've got to do, and in order to offset some of the print costs, if you would be willing to send me a donation on Cash App to help us publish this pamphlet, that would be great. A few people did, last night, and if anyone else can do that, just send me a quick donation on Cash App 22. And if you can shoot me a Cash App donation, you would make it easier for me to to get everything in order this weekend. Cash App 22. Cash App, Caleb Maupin 22. If you could send a donation, that'll help us with this weekend's outreach operation. That is our request. There's a couple people that have already stepped up to help out. Shout out to them. I don't know if they want their names revealed or not. We do appreciate it, and small contributions are appreciated. It doesn't have to be huge. You want to send $10, $5, $20, that's fine. Every little bit helps, and we just want to make sure that things go smoothly this weekend. We've got many copies of these pamphlets, and we want to print a lot more because this is a piece of outreach that I think can reach people. And we found a printer that gives us a pretty decent price. For a nice glossy pamphlet like that, we've got a printer where we can get about, for 1,000. It costs about $13.50. Now it's no shipping. I pick it up myself. And there's, there's other, we lay it all out ourselves and all of that. And, that obviously doesn't include what I paid the cover designer and all of that. So yeah, if you can offset some of the costs, Caleb Maupin 22 on Cash App, that would be awesome. And thanks to everyone who already did it. We do appreciate that. So we got a number of Rumble rants and super chats to get to. But before we do that, I'm going to put some music on, right? So here's a random thing that happened. All right. So, you all know that I'm friendly with people from Manhattan Family Church, which is, part of the Unificationist movement, a religious group from Korea. One of their songs is a song honoring Korea, and it's called Shining Fatherland. So I found out that they have this song honoring Korea, the homeland, Shining Fatherland. So I typed it into YouTube, and I discovered that there are two songs with the title Shining Fatherland, and both of them are from the Korean Peninsula. You would think there's many countries in the world that are called the Fatherland, but there are only two songs. There are two songs called Shining Fatherland, and both of them are about the peaceful reunification of the Korean Peninsula. So I thought that was just oddly poetic, right? That a religious group from South Korea and the government of North Korea both composed a patriotic song about Korea, and they gave it the same title, Shining Fatherland. So I am going to play the North Korean Shining Fatherland, and I'm going to play the Unification Church Shining Fatherland. Two songs with the exact same title honoring Korea, which will one day be reunified. So I'm going to put on the North Korean Shining Fatherland, and then I will put on the version of Shining Fatherland that was and they're not the same song, but they're honoring the same country, and it is a vision for reunification of the same country, and I find that to just be amazingly poetic and beautiful. So I'm going to put on the North Korean Shining Fatherland. I'm going to put on the Unification Church Shining Fatherland. And then from there, I will start answering people's questions. So this is the North Korean song, Shining Fatherland, performed by the prestigious orchestra of North Korea. That is one song honoring the Korean Peninsula called Shining Fatherland. Here is another song with the same title honoring the same peninsula called Shining Fatherland.
Sunlight beaming forth in the east from the fatherland, bringing tidings of a new world to families in the field. Let us hasten to send the news all throughout the world. Eden's glory spreading forever, the hope of joy and peace. Oh, dawn golden, dawn throughout the shining fatherland, tells the tidings of the rising sun that brings us light. Harvest quickly, men of the fields, hasten to harvest now. Crops are ripened and ready to bring into the heavenly barn. Saints and angels and heavenly hosts gather to speed the task. All will share the harvest of joy at the tells the tidings of the rising sun that brings us light. When the woes of 6,000 years are gone from the Father's heart, sons and daughters shall live with great joy, our true parents own. Saints and sages and men of good faith all waited for this day. Loyal men of hope and fidelity yearn to see this day. Oh, dawn golden, dawn throughout the shining fatherland, tells the tidings of the rising sun that brings us light. Oh, dawn golden, dawn throughout the shining fatherland, tells the tidings of the rising sun that brings us light.
So I thought that odd coincidence deserved some attention on this stream. All right, folks. Now I will start answering your super chat questions. First, the Rumble rants, though. All right, first Rumble rant is from Doc Green for Peace, Rachel out in Georgia. She says, compare and contrast the daily lives of U.S. workers versus workers in anti-imperialist countries, whichever country you're familiar with. For example, hours work, paid time off, living expenses, etc. Well, you know, Rachel, that's an interesting question, because I think that in the United States, when it comes to the welfare state, we have almost nothing, right? We don't have free college. We don't have free healthcare. We don't have very much paid time off. I mean, very little. I mean, some states, give you some. And it's really basically up to your employer. The better job that you have, some employers will treat you better. But generally, and if you get a salary in the United States, the 40-hour work week is just forget it. You're working way over 40 hours a week. Whereas in European social democratic countries, which are not anti-imperialist, we're talking France, Sweden, Norway, Denmark, that's where people have really, really good benefits. Free healthcare, free education, plus, a month paid time off, plus early retirement, plus, probably in terms of workers' living standards, the people who have it the best. And we're just talking in basic terms of comfort. The folks living in the European social democratic welfare states probably have it the best. And that's because these countries are imperialist countries like the United States, but they also had a bigger tradition of class struggle, and they were much closer to the Soviet Union, geographically speaking. They had big Marxist and socialist groups, and there was a real possibility of revolution. And in the aftermath of the Second World War, the welfare states in Europe greatly expanded. Now, those welfare states are being very dramatically rolled back. Norway is not what it once was. Sweden, Denmark, Holland, it's not what it once was, right? The social democratic governments, the welfare states of the imperialist European countries that offered, in the 1970s, in France, there was universal employment, because the second you lost your job, the government would hire you to paint pictures. Right? Those countries offered pretty good living standards to their population. But at the same time, the living standard that they offered, came because of imperialism, and because the imperialist countries could make super profits. The corporations based in those countries had exploited the rest of the world with colonialism, and then the imperialist global setup, and these huge multinational corporations based in these countries were able to bring in profits from the whole world, and they were able to then provide a much higher living standard. But they were forced to provide that higher living standard by a working class movement that was much bigger, big communist parties, big labor unions, etc. So, if you want to talk about just what workers had it the best, the most paid time off, the highest wages, the best benefits, you're going to be talking about workers in European social democratic welfare states. Now, when it comes to anti-imperialist countries, I will tell you my experiences with, workers in Iran, for example. Iran is a developing country, and, the conditions in Iran are not our conditions. And the people living in the Iranian countryside, compared to people living in the West, it doesn't compare. However, there are a few conversations I had with Iranians that blew their minds and kind of blew my mind as well. One of them was about healthcare. When I was in Iran, we talked about healthcare. And in Iran, healthcare is free. However, rich people often want to go to fancier hospitals where there aren't any poor people there. And so they pay lots of money to go to fancier hospitals. When I told them in the United States that healthcare is not free and that people often lose their homes, they have their homes foreclosed because of healthcare costs, Iranians did not believe that. They were shocked. They said, "What? People lose their homes to go to the doctor when they're sick?" They found that to just be shocking. That was just, they could not believe that such a thing existed. Now, keep in mind, Iran is a much poorer country than the United States. And especially in the countryside, those folks, I mean, they have electricity now, they have running water now, they've got telephones now, but they're living in very impoverished conditions. But the notion that anybody in Iran would ever lose their home to pay for medical bills, that is foreign to them. So, keep that in mind. And the same with university, right? They said, going to college, right? I said, going to college, is that free in Iran? At public universities, yes, it's free. Now they only have so many spots, and you have to have the test score to get in. But going to a public university in Iran is free. And actually, there's more women in the public universities than there are men because women have the higher test scores. And while the man is working and providing for the family, the mother can study and take the test. There's actually more women in the Iranian public university system than there are men, which that doesn't match what you've been told about Iran as a brutal society oppressing women, blah, 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 blah. However, in Iran, you can go to private universities, but they tend to be expensive, right? If you want to go to a private university, it's not a public university, you can pay and you can go there. And so when I told Iranians that Americans in the United States get in debt for decades and they spend decades paying off their college education, they said to me, yeah, but that's because they went to a really fancy private school. And I said, no. I said, even at public universities, Americans go into debt for years to pay to go to public universities. They found this shocking. They could not believe that. So, I'm not going to try and tell you that the economy of Iran, that Iranians are living better than Americans, because, in terms of wealth, that's not true for the bulk of the society. It's a developing country, and the United States is an imperialist country. But there are certain ways in which the Iranians are better off, in that none of them will ever lose their home because they went to the doctor or needed medical care. And the idea of being in debt for years to get your education is foreign to them. So, that's one example that I can give. And I don't want to speak about this in a way where I don't acknowledge that there is a big difference, because the countries of the anti-imperialist world, the countries that have been kept in poverty by imperialism, right, that have broken out of that, they're still starting from a very low place of development, and they're organizing the economy rationally in order to raise living standards, but they're starting at a lot lower level than Western countries are. But even then, even under such circumstances, they do have certain gains, right? Guaranteed employment is something that you have in almost every anti-imperialist state. Now, it's not the same, in the Soviet Union, employment was guaranteed in a certain way. It's not guaranteed in the same way. But basically, if you don't have a job, there is usually in your city, there's a place you can go. There's an office in the city town hall or whatever, and you go there and you say, I need a job, and they give you a job, and they start paying you to do something. And it's like that in China. It's like that in Iran. It's like that in Venezuela. It's like that in any anti-imperialist state that you go to. Generally, if you are unemployed for any reason, there's a place you can go and they give you a job. And that to us sounds insane, right? It sounds just completely insane, right? And they would never do that in the United States. They might give you welfare, but the idea of just giving you a job, right? That's foreign to us, right? All right. They give you unemployment benefits based on what you made at your job. They might even give you cash benefits if you're very desperate. But in anti-imperialist countries, the government sector of the economy is very, very strong. So if at some point you are unemployed and you need an income, you need a job, they generally have a place you just show up and the government hires you. And that makes sense because for them, the government is such a big part of the economy, that the government can always hire you to do something. right? Now, that's, that's, is that the same as welfare? Well, it's not, because you're working, right? And a lot of people who lose their job in anti-imperialist states don't go to such a place because the wages they will get will be low. The job they will do will probably be manual labor, cleaning the streets, working on, doing kind of manual labor. And they want a better job that pays better benefits, where they get to, do different things, have different skills, etc. But that option does exist, and that is one thing where it's like the idea of unemployment as we understand it in the United States, of being unemployed, filing for unemployment benefits, eventually losing unemployment benefits, becoming homeless on the street. That is something that is largely foreign. I remember when I was in Iran, for example, they had their English language newspaper. And I would see homeless people in Iran, but they weren't Iranians. They were Afghans who had fled from the war in Afghanistan. And they existed. I did see, Afghans, and they were from Afghanistan. And there weren't very many of them, but I did see homeless Afghans, begging. And while I was in Iran, I remember they had a newspaper article, in their English language newspaper. And it says Iran has a problem because right now, they said, in Iran, we have 20,000 homeless children in the country. And it said almost all of them are from Afghanistan. They fled the war in Afghanistan. They've come into our country, and it's a problem. And I said to my hosts, I said, in America, we have millions of homeless children, and many of them are from the United States. And his jaw dropped. He couldn't believe what I was telling him. He said, you're telling me that you have millions of homeless children? And I said, yes, we have 300 million people in America. And, my understanding is that we have millions of homeless people. And I see them all the time. And there are many homeless children in the United States, and there's far more than 20,000. And they aren't refugees from a country that's having a war. Some of them probably are, but most of them are Americans who are just poor. And that utterly blew his mind. That completely blew his mind. Because such a thing would just not be conceivable in the context of a planned economy, right? In the context of an economy where the state is planning out and controlling the economy, having homeless people, having people in your country whose labor power is not being utilized doesn't make sense, right? When it's not like they're more moral. And I this is where I'm careful how I talk about this, because there is a cliche way that leftists talk about this that gets very easily made fun of by conservatives. Look, someone could take what I just said and just point to, conditions in Iran or Venezuela or Cuba and say, well, Caleb, you're out of your mind. I'm not saying these countries are richer than the United States. And I'm not saying that these countries are more moral, right? We're just heartless here in America. We don't care about poor people, and they care about. I'm not saying that either. I'm saying that the economy is organized differently, where things that make sense in our economy don't make sense in their economy. And I think if you can stick to explaining it that way, you don't sound crazy to most people. And for example, right? I don't know if you know about this, but Milton Friedman, the US economist, has what he calls the natural unemployment rate. And this is just a basic concept, right? Right, that economists discuss, right? There's even a graphic for it. Google natural unemployment rate. That there's a certain level of unemployment you need in a capitalist society in order for the economy to function the way it's supposed to. Right? It's called the natural unemployment rate. Right? That you need 3 or 4% unemployment at all times in order to have the economy function properly, right? And this is something that almost all economists acknowledge, right? That you need roughly 3 or 4% unemployment at all times, or else the labor market gets messed up, or else workers aren't productive. I mean, now the concept of a natural unemployment rate in an economy that is largely state run does not make sense, because there's all this labor power the state is not utilizing. When the state, the government's job is the main driving force behind the economy, when you have a state-run economy, the idea that, in order to have the economy good, we need 3 to 4% of able-bodied people not working, that's just crazy, right? That's like three, that would be like, it's like 3 to 4% of the people who could be producing and creating wealth not doing it. So that doesn't make any sense, right? And these are the kind of things that you see in socialist states, that in anti-imperialist and socialist countries, the idea of a natural unemployment rate, it doesn't make any sense, right? If you go to China, is there, are there people who lose their jobs and become unemployed? Yes, but the government very much wants to find them a job, either with the government or with the private sector, as quickly as possible, because if they're unemployed, their labor power is not producing any wealth, and so their economy gets poorer. And so it just doesn't make sense. And when we're talking about anti-imperialist countries, Rachel, that's the main thing that you need to understand. There is that the way labor power and the way human beings interact with the economy is just very different, right? The idea, one problem that Cuba has, and a problem that Iran also has. When I was in Cuba, or when I have talked to people who've gone to Cuba, and when I was in Iran, I saw this. There's a big, when I was in Iran, for example, one thing that I saw very frequently in almost all the hotels, I saw women with bandages on their noses. Why? Iran is the plastic surgery capital of the Middle East. Women from all over the Middle East, from Dubai and Saudi Arabia and, all over the world, go to Iran to get nose jobs. Why? Because Iran gives cheaper nose jobs than any other country in the region. Why? Because of the fact that Iran has way too many doctors. And there are lots of doctors in Iran who don't have a place in the healthcare system, and they need to do something to pay their bills. And so being a plastic surgeon and giving plastic surgery to people who fly in from around the world is a way they can pay their bills. And there's an excess of doctors in Iran. Cuba has the same problem. And one thing that people criticize Cuba for is often you have guys with medical degrees, doctors, who are cab drivers, because they went to medical school, they passed, but there's no room for them in the Cuban healthcare system. And so they're angry. They said, I went to medical school. I went all the way through medical school. It was free, didn't cost them anything. I got a medical degree. I am an MD, but our medical system, they put too many people through the medical system. So I'm stuck being a cab driver. And they get very angry about it. They say, I should be a doctor, but I'm a cab driver. This sucks. Well, that is a problem that anti-imperialist states tend to have, is that they have a very heavily state subsidized medical system. And so they have way too many doctors. And so doctors end up not, being able to be doctors, and they have to take on other jobs, and medical tourism in Cuba, right? Another thing is transsexual surgery, right? Iran has transsexual operations, right? The trans thing in Iran, they have it, but you can be one or the other, right? You can be a man or you can be a woman. That's it. There's no in between. There's no gender fluidity. And they do give transsexual surgeries in Iran, and people from all over the world go to Iran to get transsexual surgeries. Why? Because there's doctors, who, will give it to you very cheaply because they have so many doctors, right? You would not have such a problem in a capitalist economy. The idea of, a guy goes all the way through medical school and then he has to be a cab driver because there's not enough jobs for doctors. That seems absurd in a capitalist economy, and it's honestly a problem. It is a problem. that an anti-imperialist state has, but it makes sense in the context of a state-run economy. It doesn't make sense in the context of a capitalist economy. And these are the differences. This is where I tell people there is socialism in the world. Maybe you don't want to call it socialism. Maybe it's not socialism in the sense that Karl Marx meant it for it to be socialism. There is another system that exists. There are state-run economies where the economy is run by a state that comes out of an anti-imperialist revolution that rationally organizes the economy with 5-year plans and oversees economic growth. And that exists, and you can call it whatever you want. Maybe you don't want to call it socialism. Call it, I think Michael Parenti jokingly said, you can call it a lampshade, you can call it a necktie, but this exists. This does exist. This other mode of being does exist. So the Wi-Fi is very bad. I understand. I'm looking at what we're broadcasting on YouTube. It's very poor quality. So I thank you all for being here. I hope that the Wi-Fi gets better. But I'll just keep going. I'm going to answer your question. So Rachel, I hope that answers your question. I don't know why the image is so poor quality, but I'm just going to keep going. But I hope you all can hear me. How is the audio doing? Right? Because I look at the image right now. It's just awful. I don't know why the image is so bad. I mean, it's like I'm pixelated, as they say. But there you go. There you go. I mean, the Wi-Fi is just really poor quality right now. Well, the audio is fine, people are telling me. That's good. All right. So the next Rumble rant question I've got on here says, Jimmy Dore had a guest on. I have had multiple people email me about that, and I just got to tell you, I'm not touching that with a 10-foot pole. Jimmy Dore is my friend. Jimmy Dore, has people of a wide variety of political views on his show, and I consider Jimmy Dore a friend. I was been honored to go on his show, and I've had good conversations with Jimmy Dore. I've hung out with Jimmy Dore before and talked to him on the phone about different issues. He's been very helpful to me in consulting on different things. And I'm not touching that with a 10-foot pole. So, I just, and also there's talk of other people that I want nothing to do with getting involved in that. And you just got to stay away from it. I'm not touching that. So thanks. I appreciate it. And trust me, you are about the 100th person who's reached out to me with that. Most have reached out to me directly, not over streams, but I'm not touching it with a 10-foot pole. I'm staying away from that. And the other thing is, let's not pretend Israel didn't sterilize Afro Jews. The U.S. was caught sterilizing migrants. Yes, and tying the tubes of Puerto Ricans. That happened. That's why a lot of Puerto Rican women are very, very opposed to abortion, because women had their tubes tied. They see abortion as being genocidal, right? And that went on. I mean, Puerto Rican women had their tubes tied by the American government. They were trying to, wipe them out at one point. And that there were sterilizations of Native Americans. I mean, you look at the history of eugenics in the United States, very, very ugly things did go on. So yeah, that is true. All right. Those are the Rumble rants. So now I'm very disappointed with the quality of the internet right now. I'm glad you can hear me at least. At least the audio is coming through well. Oh boy, what a night. What a night. But anyway, so I will now, first off, this was before I even started. Someone was asking about Tulsi. I have said many times, I am disappointed by Tulsi Gabbard and her support for Israel. I'm very disappointed by it. And it's not just support for Israel. She says nutty things, and some of the things she said about Iran, etc., really cancel out all the good things that she does say. Right? I mean, when she blames Iran, Tulsi Gabbard has really, really disappointed me. Her statements about Israel and her statements about events since October 7th have been so wrong on so many levels. I'm just very, very disappointed. But I will say, this person said, would you finally denounce? Like, what does denounce mean? Tulsi Gabbard played a very good role on Syria, played a very good role regarding Russia and China, even around the Iran nuclear deal, and, around North Korea. And then now she's playing a very bad role. Could she play a good role in the future? Sure. And if she does, I will applaud her for doing that and I will support her. I don't like this internet culture of we denounce, do you denounce, do you disavow? It's not like that, right? And it's not like this burn someone's bad. Well, I disavow, denounce them. Look, what she's doing right now on Israel is so wrong. I don't even want to hear it. I can't stand to listen to her. It's so bad. But maybe at some point in the future she'll play a better role on another issue, right? Right. And that's what I urge people, again, not to view things in terms of this good people and bad people. View it in terms of people playing a good role or playing not so good a role or a negative role. And I think when it comes to international stuff right now, her Israel position has tainted all of her good positions. I mean, she was pretty good on Iran at one point. Now she's not. She was pretty good on, she was pretty good on Syria at one point. Now she's not, right? In order to take the position that she takes on Israel, which is a Netanyahu position, she has to back away from everything that made her good. I mean, it's really sad, but it taints everything that she does. And that's the thing. And there are certain people on both sides who don't get it, right? There are people that are very, very pro-Russia that just can't wrap their minds around the fact that all the countries Russia is aligned with are fighting Israel, and Israel is backed by the United States, and Israel is pro-Ukraine. So it makes no sense to be pro-Russian and pro-Israel. And there are a number of people who are pro-Palestine and anti-Israel, but hate all the countries that stand with the Palestinians. They hate Iran, they hate Russia, they hate Syria, they hate Venezuela. And I'm just like, that doesn't make sense to me either. I mean, the conflict in Gaza, it's pretty clear who's on what side. Now, it gets a little confusing with the Arab countries, Saudi Arabia, Turkey. Well, they're not Arabs, they're Turks, but United Arab Emirates, Qatar, that maybe gets a little confusing because they do give a lot of money to the Palestinians and such, and they're not in the anti-imperialist camp. But aside from the Arab states and the Muslim states, the Israel-Palestine conflict pretty well lines up with the anti-imperialist camp. So to be pro-Israel, to be pro-Russia and understand that Russia is under attack by imperialism and be pro-Israel makes no sense. And to be pro-Palestine but hate Russia, hate China, that doesn't make any sense either. And there's a lot of very confused people on this issue. And I will say that, like a lot of issues, the Israel-Palestine issue in particular, right? If you are from a Muslim country, and it's very, very unlikely you will be pro-Israel. It's very unlikely. Now, there are some, right? I think there was a guy in my neighborhood I met, and he introduced himself to me, and he said, "Oh, I'm a Muslim, but I am pro-Israel." I said, "Okay." And I guess in Azerbaijan, there are some pro-Israel Muslims. But for the most part, almost all Muslims are anti-Israel. And Jewish folks, there are a lot of anti-Israel Jews who are very outspoken. But for the most part, the Jewish community largely supports Israel. And so do the evangelical Christian communities of the world. And so if you grew up as a Jewish person or as an evangelical Christian, you're probably going to support Israel. And if you grew up as a Muslim, you are probably not going to support Israel. And there are very big exceptions among Jews and among Muslims, but for the most part, that's a pretty universal position. And that points to something I've talked about on these streams many times before, which is that for most people, their politics is very much based on who they grew up around and, what community they live in. And that, we have to remember that when dealing with people. And that, sometimes there are people that on a certain issue, you just won't get through to them, right? You just won't be able to get through to them because on a certain issue, their community, their family, their background, they're not going to hear you. So the question is, how can you possibly relate to such a person on another issue? Right? Is there maybe an area where this person could listen to you and you could find some common ground? And that, I would argue, is how those kind of situations should be approached, right? Rather than just trying to get someone to just repudiate everything that they believe. I would argue that while, if someone grew up in a Jewish household or an evangelical Christian household and they just grew up really pro-Zionist, the chances of you convincing them to oppose Israel are very small. But maybe you'll be able to get them to understand the 4-point economic plan, right? Maybe, I mean, and that's how you should approach things. And again, the internet gives us all the ability to kind of get into a bubble, get into an internet bubble. Man, this Wi-Fi, I do not know why it is so bad. It is really infuriating me. I'm seeing this. I mean, it's like, it's really infuriating. And I mean, I'm looking at it and I'm just totally pixelated here. And it's honestly making me angry, because I pay a lot of money for Wi-Fi and, the internet. I mean, for hours, it's just been bad and it just continues to be very, very bad Wi-Fi. And that makes me frustrated because I'm here broadcasting to all of you. I want to give you all a good message and it's very low quality. And that infuriates me. Most nights I can get on here. It's almost 2 a.m. So why is it such bad service? It's really infuriating me, honestly. And I know that there's probably people flipping through who are not watching because they're seeing a bunch of pixels, and that makes me angry. It honestly makes me very angry. But anyway, I'll keep talking. But anyway, yeah, American infrastructure. Very, very good point. American infrastructure. I mean, what is this? I mean, sometimes it goes out, right? Sometimes it goes out for a little bit, and then it gets better. But it is just bad. I mean, it just continues to be bad. Well, I don't have that. And I don't have that on my laptop. My laptop doesn't have that connection. So yeah, I mean, I don't have an Ethernet. I got an Apple here, and it doesn't have an Ethernet connection. So frustrating. So yeah, there you go. But yeah, I guess people can hear me just fine. The audio is fine. And thank you, Tyler, for the shout out. I'm glad you're in the chat. Tyler is great. Go subscribe to Tyler's channel. He does great shorts. He does great audiobooks. Go subscribe to Tyler's channel. He's always doing great stuff. But there you go. There you go. All right. Well, thank you, Javier Torres, for your super chat. It is very much appreciated. It sounds like you appreciated the videos I was showing about North Korea and such, and I appreciate that. And I'm glad you're enjoying what I do. And hey, I get on here. I don't always start at the time that I plan to start, but I am on here and I am streaming and I am happy to be here. So thank you, Javier. All right. Talk about Kanak independence riots in French New Caledonia. I can't talk about that because I just don't know enough about it, honestly. I really, really don't know enough about it. I wish I could give you an answer, but I just, I don't have an answer. I just don't have an answer to that. So, yeah, you stumped me. You asked me about something I don't know about. Liberals love revolutionaries when they are dead. Yes, they do. And there's a quote from Lenin about that that I've often shown. Let me see if I can show it on the screen. Let's see if I have I've actually used it. I have a screenshot of it that I've used before, like the opening of the State and Revolution. Yes, here it is. Here we go. Something that Lenin very famously, if you open the book State and Revolution by Lenin, he begins by saying, during the lifetime of great revolutionaries, the oppressing classes constantly hounded them, received their theories with the most savage malice, the most furious hatred, and the most unscrupulous campaigns of lies and slander. After their death, attempts are made to canonize them, so to say, and hallow their names to a certain extent for the consolation of the oppressed classes, with the object of duping the latter, while at the same time robbing the revolutionary theory of its substance and blunting the revolutionary edge and vulgarizing it. And I think that pretty much sums up the Black Panther nostalgia that we're seeing right now, right? The Black Panthers were hounded by the FBI. The Black Panthers were pretty much slandered and lied about and oppressed, but now they bring them back as a way to bring conciliation to the oppressed classes. They bring them back to do that. Yeah, there you go. Nelson Mandela is another great example. Yeah, I mean, and that supporting the Black Panthers now doesn't really mean much. The test is, would you have supported them while they were around, right? And I will tell you, I mean, Luna Oy, right? Luna Oy, I was friendly with Luna Oy. I interviewed Luna Oy on this channel. And Luna Oy, as soon as I was getting canceled on the internet for socialism with American characteristics or Dugan or whatever, I hate Caleb, blocks me, whatever. But then just to, to continue, whenever anyone brings up Uhuru and the Uhuru movement that is currently facing indictment by the American government, Luna Oy, she always says, well, I heard they were like a cult. Right. And that is how these bread tubers avoid. There's a group of black revolutionaries, the People's Democratic Uhuru Movement. They have been indicted by the American government for not committing any crime. They haven't committed any crime. They're just indicted because they made pro-Russian statements. They're claiming that that's acting as a foreign lobbyist. And they could go to prison, and they're not charged with any crime except free speech, except having anti-imperialist views. And all these people don't support them because, I heard on the internet they're like a cult. Who cares? Right? They're not charged with being a cult. They're charged with something that would make being an anti-imperialist and opposing U.S. foreign policy illegal. And the fact that Luna Oy, I mean, that goes to tell you, if the Black Panthers were around today, she would oppose them. Of course, she would talk nice. Oh, I love the Black Panthers. Well, they're all gone now, right? It's not a test. But now a group of black revolutionaries are being charged with being foreign agents, and you're supporting the government going after them. And I see this over and over again. All these so-called radicals, all these people who are just so revolutionary and so all of this, they can't support the Uhuru movement. There's literally a group of black revolutionaries that have been charged with being foreign agents by the FBI, had their homes raided. They do free breakfast programs in the black community. And the American government has charged them with being Russian agents. And all these people that are so woke and love Fred Hampton won't say anything about it. And that should tell you right there how ridiculously full of it these people are. Right? I mean, it'd be one thing if it was, a group of white people or whatever. These are like modern day Black Panthers are being charged by the American government. And their response to anyone who brings up how ridiculous the charges against them are, they're not charged with actual crimes. They're charged with supposedly being friendly to Russia. And anyone who brings that up, they just say, oh, I heard they were a cult. I mean, it's horrifying to me. These people are they're not revolutionary in any conceivable way. And I don't understand why people can't see that. And there continue to be people that are just like, oh, I like them. Oh, well, they had a good video on this. It's like, you do understand there's a group of black revolutionaries at this point facing 15 years in prison, and they didn't do anything. And they're okay with that because, oh, I don't want to get canceled. Oh, I'm afraid of standing out on the internet. I mean, it's horrifying. I'm going to put the video on about the Uhuru case. I'll keep answering the super chats. I see there's a few more that have come in. But if somebody doesn't stand with Uhuru, and somebody doesn't stand with Julian Assange, if somebody condemns Russia and Ukraine, I don't care if they can give me a great lecture about Lenin and how amazing Lenin was. I don't care if they can, they can talk up and down about theory and ideology. It doesn't matter, right? And that's one thing that's why this is an activist YouTube channel. This is not an entertainment thing. There's a lot of people that are like, well, they can put on a good show, they can make good videos, so who cares? No. Like, if people see a group of black revolutionaries and they're not charged with real crimes, they're charged with supporting Russia, and you can't bring yourself to say this is wrong, and you sit there and go, well, it's a cult, so you're not a revolutionary. And that's why when people say to me I should stop organizing and all of that, I take sides. Like, there's an 80-year-old man, an 80-year-old lifelong black revolutionary could die in prison because of, I mean, and these people can't oppose that because, oh, well, there's somebody on the internet said something. I mean, it's infuriating to me. So I'm going to put the video on about Uhuru. I'll continue answering this. I hope this Wi-Fi gets better. This is ridiculous how bad this Wi-Fi is. But anyway, After the rioting was done, U.S. media kind of forgot about those communities. Well, Uhuru, they went out there because they saw black and brown people like themselves that were out there protesting and rioting, and they stayed there. And they've been there since 2014, providing services in the community, giving these young people in the community something constructive to do, not just go out and break shit to raise awareness about the conditions they're in, but ways to actually feed people and serve the community. And they've been there in St. Louis since 2014 doing constructive work. They have really escalated these programs. They have a farmer's market. They provide classes and services to pregnant mothers, and in particular in St. Louis, Missouri, and in St. Petersburg, Florida. They're trying to undo the damage that the U.S. Department of Justice and the state police and the local police and all the forces have been doing in communities like Ferguson, Missouri. And at the same time that they've done this community work, the African People's Socialist Party has also taken a firm anti-imperialist stance. They support China. They support Russia. They support Cuba. They support Iran. And when the United States started piling weapons into Kiev, they defended Russia's right to intervene.
This defensive war in Ukraine that Russia is actually waging against world colonial powers, not Ukraine as a single entity, but the U.S. and all colonial powers who have an interest in colonially dominating African people right here in this country and around the world and extracting resources from the majority of peoples on the planet. That system, this current system, is in severe crisis, and they cannot rule in the same old way.
Because of that, their homes were raided. Then months later, the federal government came out with an indictment, and it's charging them with being Russian agents. And it's trying to allege that the election campaign that they ran in St. Petersburg, Florida, was somehow interference in the U.S. electoral process.
4 activists associated with the People's Democratic Uhuru Movement and the African People's Socialist Party have been indicted by the U.S. Department of Justice. The indictment from the U.S. Department of Justice accuses them of spreading Russian propaganda and cites simply some web conferences that they had, some Zoom meetings, some emails they sent out, as well as the fact that they have run routine election campaigns. Is this of concern to the Secretary General as an attack on human rights, freedom of assembly, etc.?
I frankly was not aware of the case before you mentioned it. Let me look into it and I will get back to you.
What's going on in Africa is directly connected to what's going on here. What's going on in Ukraine is connected to what's going on in Harlem. You know what I'm saying? It's an international global economy that's all connected.
Because they go to conferences in Russia, this constitutes Russian meddling in the elections. The whole thing is ridiculous. It's completely, utterly ridiculous. They've been running these campaigns for years, since before I was born. Back in the 1970s, they were running people for office. Their platform of reparations, I mean, Marianne Williamson, she's a major Democrat candidate. She also says she believes in reparations. I mean, it's not a unique message that they have in that sense, but they have been targeted because they're doing what you're supposed to do. I mean, you know, at all of our meetings, we have a picture of Fred Hampton up on the stage because Fred Hampton, he built a free breakfast program. He organized what he called a rainbow coalition, uniting low-income people, white, black, brown, Arab, Latino, into one organization, you know, trying to build up community empowerment, trying to do community service projects while teaching Marxism and socialism. You know, we look at Fred Hampton as a great example of the American revolutionary tradition. And, you know, the African People's Socialist Party and the Uhuru movement, you know, they don't like that we wave the American flag. They don't like that we consider ourselves patriotic. They have their own kind of unique analysis. They talk about what they call the colonial mode of production. That's not traditional Marxist thinking. And we don't agree with them on a number of issues. But it doesn't matter. We support them.
We all have to stand up and oppose the ideology of division and support an ideology of unity based upon our material interests, you know what I'm saying, to work together.
People who can't understand that, people who can't get past, you know, this or that, like, we got to put aside our differences and say that if they come for them, they come for all of us. If they go after them, they got to deal with all of us. That needs to be the attitude among anti-imperialists. All righty. Okay. So, yeah, I mean, there you go. Can you discuss the political factions in Taiwan today? Well, basically, you still have the KMT. So the KMT is the political party started by Dr. Sun Yat-sen, the father of, you know, the Chinese Revolution, and he started the KMT nationalist movement. The KMT nationalist movement took a very anti-communist turn in 1927. And then as a result of that, you know, the communists came to power in the mainland and they fled to the island of Taiwan. And they were very anti-communist. It was an anti-communist military dictatorship. until the 80s. And then in the 80s, they started to have more of an open system. Still illegal to be a communist in Taiwan, but and actually now the KMT, which was the anti-communist ruling party under Chiang Kai-shek, is now actually the more pro-Chinese mainland party, because the government on Taiwan, the official name of it is Republic of China, right? And it considers itself to be one country with China. It's just a different government. Since the 90s, there has been a rise in what you call Taiwan separatism, of people who maintain that the people on the island of Taiwan are a different nationality than than the people on the Chinese mainland. And that current, that's the what is it? The Democratic Progressive Party, the DPP. That is the current that maintains that. The KMT is very much a party that feels that they are Chinese. They just have differences with the government on the mainland. And the DPP, right, is the party that tends to believe that the people on Taiwan are a separate nationality, and that many people have pointed out that many of the very most outspoken Taiwan separatists have ties to Japan, because Taiwan was occupied by Japan prior to World War II, and that Japan pretty brutally repressed a lot of the people it occupied, but Taiwan was treated a little bit differently. They weren't, it wasn't, the way they were treated. And so a lot of the Taiwan separatists are people that have kind of a soft spot for Japan during World War II. And that's been pointed out. So there you go. There you go. All righty. Okay. All right. Any presidential candidate you get a chance to speak to at the convention, challenge them on Uhuru. And I intend to do that. And I'm going to talk to Dr. Shiva tomorrow, and I'm going to ask him about the Uhuru case and what he thinks about it. And he's a presidential candidate, and I'm going to the Libertarian Convention. I've got press credentials, and I'll see who I get to talk to. That's what I'll be doing at the Libertarian Convention, and I'll be handing out pamphlets. And yeah, I mean, it's going to be an interesting weekend at the Libertarian Convention in Washington, D.C. I'm glad I'm going. I consider it a great opportunity to be able to go there and participate in the convention. I think we got a great piece of outreach material. I can't wait until I can hold one up on here and show it all to you. Yep, Dr. Shiva tomorrow. It's going to be awesome. Looking forward to it. Thank you. And thank you, Got Milk. Much appreciated. Very good. Any thoughts on the coup attempt in the Democratic Republic of the Congo? Everything about this Christian Malanga figure smells like an intelligence asset. Well, look, I don't know if you saw, but the president of Kenya is coming to the United States. And he's the first African head of state to have an official visit to the United States since 2009. It's been 15 years since an African head of state has come. And the reason that he's coming is because of the fact that that Kenya is leading a military intervention into Haiti, and that all the U.S. aligned African countries are invading Haiti. Why? Haiti is a largely black country, and it would be bad PR for white America to send its forces into Haiti. So America called up all of its African, comprador, client states, all the African pro-U.S. countries, and they are moving their forces into Haiti, to help the Haitian police. And Kenya is leading the operation. And so Biden is going to give kind of a hero's welcome to the president of Kenya as Kenya moves its forces into Haiti. And this is certainly a development. A number of African countries have asked the United States to leave, asked the U.S. military to leave, West African countries in particular. And there is a big pivot on the African continent toward Russia and China. I've got some orange juice here. I'm going to start drinking some orange juice as we speak. I'm just going to start drinking some of this orange juice that I've got here in my hand. There's a big pivot toward Russia and China on the African continent right now, because Africa and China believe Africa needs economic development. Russia and China believe in growth. And Russia and China go and they help these countries develop. whereas the United States believes in degrowth. And part of Joe Biden's platform when he ran in 2016 was he was going to stop China from building coal power plants on the African continent. So, I mean, that tells you what you need to know there, basically. But Africa is more and more moving into the anti-imperialist camp. And because of that, we have a situation where there is more and more attempts by the United States to maneuver within the African continent to give better benefits to the parts of Africa that are still aligned with them, etc. So there you go. Now, I have one more super chat about JFK, and I see it, Red Maze, and I will answer it. But before I do that, I want to show you all my tribute that I gave to the Iranian president. Right after I streamed with all of you, I went live on RT, and I gave a tribute to the Iranian president, who I met, Ibrahim Riazi, who died in the helicopter crash. This was my tribute that I did. Kind of just once it was confirmed that he was no longer alive, that he was indeed dead, I went on RT and I gave a tribute to Ibrahim Riazi on air, and it was just very off the cuff. And I think it's one of the better interviews I've given. Very little prep. It was just I'd met Riazi, I interviewed Riazi, and so I gave this interview. So I'm going to show that. If anyone has any more super chats, by all means, send them in. I will answer the one that I've got here, but I will keep answering super chats. The night is young. It's about to be 2 a.m. or at 2 hours and 30 minutes in. I've got plenty of energy in me. I could do another hour if I need to, but I need people to ask me questions. So here we go.
We just showed your interview that you did back in September 2023 with the Iranian president. What were some of your impressions of the man?
Well, it was really an honor to sit down with him back in September because I've covered a number of American elections. I asked Donald Trump a question at one of his press conferences. And when I spoke with the head of state of the Islamic Republic, I was speaking to somebody of a completely different brand, a completely different category. I mean, this was a deeply religious man. This was a longtime clerical figure in Iran, a judge, a legal scholar. This was someone who took the history of his country and the project of carrying out the Islamic Revolution and national rejuvenation very seriously. And every answer that he gave me came from a place of a very sophisticated understanding of geopolitics and really, I should say, a more Eastern approach and a more long-term approach to how one should govern a country. He wasn't worried about sound bites and scandal and gossip and rumors and all the stuff we hear from American and Western leaders. He was focused on kind of a long-term vision of how the Eastern parts of the world could come together. He was very excited about cooperating with Russia, cooperating with China. He was very critical of the United States and how it's destabilized and meddled in Iran's internal affairs. It was quite a conversation, and it was really an honor to speak with him. And I really wish that American audiences could understand how our leaders are kind of out of touch with how figures like him govern in different parts of the world.
Well, speaking of the sort of vision that President Raisi had for Iran, what would you say was the significance of his election back in 2021?
Well, he came on the heels of Iranian President Rouhani, who was a reformist, who was seen as being more sympathetic to the United States and had come to power on a platform of saying that if he carried out the Iran nuclear deal and negotiated with the United States, that would improve things for the Islamic Republic. And Rouhani, his predecessor, was proved devastatingly wrong because the Iran nuclear deal was signed and the USA ripped it up. And not only did they betray the deal, but then they murdered Qasem Soleimani, the top Iranian general, military figure, national hero. So when Riazi was elected, it was very much seen as a repudiation of kind of the reformist policies and a real reiteration of the principles of the Islamic Republic and the Islamic Revolution, the anti-capitalist and anti-imperialist principles. I mean, he called himself a principalist. His critics called him a hardliner, but he said he was a principalist, and he was reasserting the principles on which the Islamic Republic was founded. And that's particularly important right now because Iran is very much a target of Israel because of their support for the Palestinians. And support for the Palestinians was something that he was very firm, and he was kind of leading the country to kind of hold itself together in the face of the murder of Qasem Soleimani and more recently the brutal attack on the Iranian consulate in Damascus. And so it's important to understand him in that light. He came to power as a repudiation of figures who had tried to conciliate with the United States and then gotten slapped in the face.
Well, of course, we have very little official information right now. We don't know if there were any foreign powers involved in this incident involving Raisi. But what do you think that it could mean for Tehran and its foreign relations in the region and beyond, as well as domestically?
Well, the fact that already all over Iran there is suspicion of Israeli involvement, American involvement, that reflects what Iran has been subjected to for decades. Criminal economic sanctions, the funding of destabilization movements to try and tear the country apart. You know, the Mujahideen at Khalq, which was considered for years to be a terrorist organization that conducted assassinations and worked with Saddam Hussein. They are openly celebrated by the U.S. government and promoted by top American politicians. And let's not forget, 1988, you had an Iranian civilian aircraft that was shot down by the United States. And U.S. President Reagan and later U.S. President Bush refused to apologize for shooting down this civilian aircraft. So the fact that there's widespread suspicion that the American government or the Israeli government could have been involved, based on what Iran has faced since its revolution, and most especially in recent months and recent years, that's not really surprising. It would fit what Iran has been subjected to, and it would kind of, it would match the pattern of attacks on Iranian leaders, assassination of prominent Iranian national heroes and political figures like Qasem Soleimani. So I think people should understand that such suspicion, this isn't just internet conspiracy theories. It kind of matches a pattern of how that country has been treated.
Well, just to add on what you just mentioned there, Caleb, we just got official confirmation from the vice president of Iran that Raisi, unfortunately, has been confirmed killed as a result of this incident. But that was RT correspondent Caleb Maupin. Thanks a lot for bringing us those details.
Indeed. Yeah, so that was my tribute to the Iranian president, who I did interview in person, back in September. So, there you go. I did not expect that he would no longer be living so quickly. So, yeah. All right. So, Red Maze says JFK had run a campaign heavy on anti-communism, but wanted to pull advisors out of Vietnam and had peaceful back channels with Fidel and USSR. Sometimes rhetoric doesn't point to what is in a person's heart in an APEC environment. Now, that's interesting. Now, I don't know if that's intended to refer to RFK, but so I mean, it's true that John F. Kennedy ran for president on a platform of accusing his predecessors of not being effective in fighting communism. John F. Kennedy also, the Bay of Pigs invasion happened on his watch. It was being planned largely by the previous administration, but it did happen in the early months of his own administration. The Cuban Missile Crisis happened in his administration. I mean, Kennedy, when you talk about the Kennedy presidency, I think the main reason that Kennedy was hated was because he wanted to de-escalate the Cold War, especially towards the very end of his life. He wanted to de-escalate the Cold War when he called for the moon mission to be a joint mission between the United States and the Soviet Union. That was big. And also, I think it was the fact that he aligned himself with the civil rights movement. But Tyler is right. He was an imperialist. And I mean, the idea that he was not an imperialist or something, that is an illusion. But there are disagreements among the imperialists. And just the fact that Kennedy did bad things like the Bay of Pigs invasion, doesn't mean that other factions in the ruling class might not target him. One thing, though, that's worth pointing out is that JFK was absolutely a Zionist, right? JFK was absolutely pro-Israel. And there's a name, and I talk about it in the new CPI textbook. I guess I'll put an image of him on the screen. I really wish people could know about this guy, because you look into the details of this figure, Hank Greenspun, right? You look into the details of this guy, Hank Greenspun. This is a Las Vegas gangster, basically, who ran a newspaper, organized crime, and a Zionist. This was, I mean, he wasn't just a Zionist; he was a Mossad agent. Hank Greenspun, right? And Hank Greenspun, I mean, he was the publisher of the Las Vegas Sun, which was his newspaper. He owned a lot of real estate in Las Vegas, and he stole millions of dollars worth of U.S. military equipment and gave it to Israel. He would go to U.S. Army bases and steal guns and tanks and airplanes, and millions of dollars of U.S. military equipment was stolen by this Las Vegas gangster and given to Israel. And for this, he only got a $10,000 fine, and JFK pardoned him. He got a pardon from JFK, so he didn't even have a criminal record. Now, who can steal millions and millions of dollars worth of U.S. military equipment and and only get a fine and then get a presidential pardon? But if you look at Hank Greenspun was more than just a gangster. He was more than just a thief. And he was a Mossad agent, right? And he was very much that. He was a Mossad operative. But it's also important to note that he is responsible for revealing that Joe McCarthy was gay, right? So we all know the big anti-communist guy from the 1950s, Joe McCarthy. Joe McCarthy, the McCarthyism, right? Joe McCarthy. This guy, right? The famous anti-communist witch hunter. Well, Hank Greenspun is the guy who broke the story that Joe McCarthy was gay. And he revealed it. He revealed it before the world. Why is StreamYard so poor quality? This is very frustrating. Can't even bring the image up for me. It's so bad. This is ridiculous. I mean, between my Wi-Fi and I can't even get an image to show on the screen. This is so ridiculous. This is completely ridiculous. But anyway, Hank Greenspun revealed that Joe McCarthy was gay, right? And Joe McCarthy then, in order to protect his image, he married his secretary, and Roy Cohn, Joe McCarthy's assistant, was very well known to be gay and died of AIDS eventually. Joe McCarthy had apparently raped, gotten a guy drunk and raped him when he was in the Army, and that Joe McCarthy was a particularly, he was gay, but he was also a gay sexual predator. He would prey on men, he would sexually assault men and sexually harass men. And Hank Greenspun revealed that to the world. And there were divisions in the ruling class. And back in these days, the liberals were more pro-Israel. It was the conservatives that were somewhat anti-Israel, and that there was a kind of anti-Semitic, anti-Jewish undertone to McCarthyism. And Israel kind of saw McCarthyism as being against them. And that's important to point out. And that JFK was against McCarthyism. I guess his father had been very pro-McCarthyism at the beginning, in the early stages of McCarthyism, but had later, joined the liberal opposition. But I think the main thing that bothered them about JFK was the civil rights movement. He aligned himself with Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. and the civil rights movement, and that reminded the ruling elite of Roosevelt. Roosevelt had aligned himself with the labor movement, and that had given Roosevelt a huge amount of power. And they feared that and at that point, you have to remember the main financial backer of the civil rights movement was the United Auto Workers Union. And that's something that a lot of people don't realize. That's an aspect of civil rights history that you wouldn't know, unless you read the history. But, why was Martin Luther King Jr. able to do the Montgomery bus boycott? Well, that was because the UAW paid for it. The UAW, the United Auto Workers Union, was led by a guy named Walter Reuther, right? And I think his brother Victor Reuther, the Reuther brothers. And they led the United Auto Workers, and they were liberals, and they supported the civil rights movement, and they saw the civil rights movement as supporting the labor movement. My goodness, I can't even get it to put a picture on the screen. That's how low quality. The Wi-Fi won't get better. This is utterly infuriating. But the civil rights movement was sponsored by the United Auto Workers Union, and that JFK aligned himself with a mass movement, and that was seen as a threat. CIA was a completely rogue agency at the time, blaming JFK for the lies of intel agencies that also had evidence of JFK's affairs as leverage. JFK was pro Lumumba. He met with Lumumba at the White House, and he was threatened by the CIA. Yes, but honestly, though, I think that he was more in line with the CIA than the Pentagon. I look at the assassination of JFK as more of a Pentagon operation against the kind of Eastern establishment, soft power liberals, because JFK was really more of a threat to the forces that wanted to escalate U.S. military involvement in Vietnam, the forces that wanted to completely demonize the Russians and not have any dialogue with them. The civil rights movement was certainly not loved by a lot of the Pentagon generals that were Southern guys. They thought it was a commie plot. And I believe, if I'm not mistaken, there were billboards in Dallas, accusing JFK of being a communist. If I'm not mistaken, yeah. There were billboards by the John Birch Society accusing JFK of being a traitor. I'm trying to find any of the billboards about JFK, but there were apparently a JFK. I think it was at Targets, right? Billboards. But yeah, there were billboards demonizing JFK put up. And, I've even heard stories of in the US Navy, when JFK was killed, the officers cheered, various officers cheered, and that he was more of a threat to kind of the military brass, right? That wanted to escalate into Vietnam, the military industrial complex. Now, there were divisions within the CIA, and that's pretty clear. And that there was, he wanted to regulate the CIA to some degree or other, and that he favored a softer approach, a negotiation approach with the CIA. He had more of that Rockefeller approach, but he was also pro-growth. And that's where it gets complicated, right? He wasn't a degrowth Democrat because he was tied to the urban political machines. He was more of a smokestack Democrat. So he wasn't a completely Eastern establishment guy. He was JFK. I mean, I don't know. He represented the northern wing of the Democratic Party, the urban political machines. He represented, and, also going to Dallas was kind of a diplomatic gesture. That was a very conservative city. That was, a very military place. That was he was going there in the hopes of kind of offering an olive branch. So, yeah, there you go. There you go. But, yeah, anything else on people's minds tonight? I have the Yankee and Cowboy War narrative. That is my understanding. If you want to know how I see the, these years, go read the Yankee and Cowboy War, or you can read the new textbook. Um, you also watched his pro-peace commencement speech. Read LBJ, Mastermind of Assassination. Have a good night, comrades. I did watch that. I think we played it on here or something. I think we played it on here one night, if I'm not mistaken. So there you go. There you go. Interesting take. How about Bush's involvement factor? The Bush family were friends with the Rockefellers. Okay. Well, I mean, Bush is from Connecticut. He's that old money New England Republicans, right? I mean, that makes sense to me. I mean, one thing I've noticed, and it's interesting, we got a few Kennedy fans in the chat. One thing I've noticed, I'm just going to throw this out there, and I've noticed this over and over again. RFK has said Brzezinski was a neoconservative. That's not true. Brzezinski had the soft power approach. Brzezinski was like kind of a mentor to Obama, and Brzezinski was not a neocon, and he was against the axis of evil speech. He opposed it. Brzezinski was not good. He was an imperialist, but he wasn't a neocon, right? Brzezinski was a strategist, and he did not like the moralism of the neocons, the way they moralized things. And he did not like the way that they focused on regime change as a moral imperative, defending freedom as a moral imperative. He didn't like that. And Brzezinski was much more in line with the Eastern establishment and such. And the neocons refer to followers of Leo Strauss. They refer to Irving Kristol. It refers to, there was a layer of people, John Bolton comes out of that school, the Sovietology, people that were trained in Sovietology in the 70s and 80s. But Brzezinski is not from that area. Brzezinski is much more associated with liberals, especially with the Carter administration. I mean, Jimmy Carter called himself a student of Zbigniew Brzezinski. And, and on top of that, he had Zbigniew Brzezinski as his national security advisor. So I hear RFK say this over and over again. Well, Brzezinski was a neoconservative. That's not true, right? If you know who the neocons were, Brzezinski was not one of them. So I don't know why RFK keeps saying that. And that, there's kind of a basic lack of knowledge of geopolitics. Okay, thank you, Tyler. I'm gonna have to get one for myself too. I mean, this is a mess. This is not good. I'll order one right now. I have never. But anyway, yeah. Okay. There we go. But yeah. So yeah. Wild. Thank you, Tyler. Thank you. Thank you for that. But yeah, I mean, it's never been this bad before. And it's like, this is late at night. I mean, it's not like we should be having interference. I don't know why it's so bad tonight. But yeah, if anyone else has anything else on their minds tonight, send it my way. I will mention that again, as I mentioned before, we got the booklet that we are planning to distribute at the Libertarian Convention this weekend. Oh my goodness, it won't even show it on the screen. That's how bad this is. This is so bad. This is so bad. This is just so bad. But anyway, we do have the booklet we're planning to distribute this weekend. So earlier I said if you want to contribute to sending the booklet, you can cash at me, Caleb Maupin 22, offset the printing costs. But anyhow, folks, I guess since it's not even going to let me show images, right? I have to get an adapter too. It's not even going to let me show images. I think I should probably call it a night. I don't know. I've never had such poor quality before. But thank you all for being here, for waiting so long and then coming on here with me. And, you know, we had some good music about North Korea, and we had some good singing and stuff. And yeah, hopefully we can get the internet into a higher quality. And thank you, Tyler, for your technical support. And I should probably go to sleep. You know, big day tomorrow. Tune in tomorrow when I interview Dr. Shiva. 3 p.m. or no, 3:30 p.m. Eastern time tomorrow. I interview the great Dr. Shiva. You know, and that's going to be awesome. So thanks, everybody. I guess I'll just end the stream for now. So yeah, tune in tomorrow for Dr. Shiva. All right.